Jace reached for his dagger. Marin's breath caught in her throat. A soft, steady rhythm. Too heavy for a rat. Too slow for a patrol. Her name tasted like heaven on his lips, his wolf growling possessively as she stopped before him, her head tilted, her eyes warm. "Thank you. For letting me stay here. For giving me a chance." His chest tightened, his heart pounding as he fought the urge to touch her, to hold her, to never let her go. "You're part of this pack now. No one will ever hurt you again." Her eyes softened, her lips curving into a gentle smile, her body relaxing as she looked up at him. I feel safe here. With you." Damien's breath caught, his heart racing as her words wrapped around him, filling him with warmth, with hope, with a longing he couldn't deny. "Mate." His wolf growled, his body trembling with desire, his instincts roaring to claim her, to protect her, to love her. But before he could say anything, a shout echoed across the clearing, breaking the spell. "Alpha! Urgent news!" Ella's eyes widened, her body tensing as she stepped back, her walls slamming down. I should go." Before he could stop her, she turned and ran, her form disappearing into the trees, her scent lingering in the air. Damien's chest ached, his fists clenching as he watched her go, his heart pounding with frustration, with longing, with confusion. But the shout came again, more urgent this time. He turned, his eyes narrowing as his beta approached, his face pale, his eyes wide. "Alpha, there's trouble. It's about Ella." Damien's heart sank, his blood running cold as the words echoed in his mind. Trouble. About Ella. His wolf snarled, his body tensing as fury ignited within him. Whoever dared threaten her would pay. Lila's victory. Lila stood by the Luna's bedside, her eyes cold, her lips curling into a satisfied smile. The old woman's breathing was shallow, her face pale, her body trembling as the poison ate away at her from the inside. "Lila." The Luna gasped, her eyes glazed, her hand reaching out desperate and weak. "Help." "Me." Lila's smile widened, her heart racing with triumph as she leaned in, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Don't worry. You'll be at peace soon." The Luna's eyes widened, panic and realization dawning as her body convulsed, pain twisting her face, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You, M-monster." Lila's face darkened, her eyes gleaming with malice. "You were in my way. You were never meant to be Luna. That title belongs to me." She watched coldly as the life faded from the Luna's eyes, her body going limp, her hand falling to her side. It was over. Lila's heart pounded with exhilaration, her body tingling with power, her lips curving into a wicked smile. She had won. With the old Luna gone, no one could oppose her. Kaden would need a new mate, a new advisor, and she would take her rightful place by his side. Her eyes gleamed with victory, her mind spinning with plans, her body trembling with anticipation. Ella was gone, banished, forgotten. The Luna was dead, out of her way. Nothing could stop her now. But she didn't know that Ella was alive, stronger, growing closer to Damien, and she would be back. Shadows of doubt. Damien stood in the dimly lit study, his fingers tracing the jagged letters on the crumpled parchment. Kaden's second letter. Words echoed in his mind, heavy with accusation, dripping with malice. "She poisoned my Luna. She betrayed her own pack. She's dangerous." His jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the letter again, looking for inconsistencies, for lies, for anything that would prove Kaden wrong. He had ignored his first letter. Why, then, is he still so persistent in this matter? But doubt crept in, cold and insidious, whispering in his ear. What if it was true? What if she really was dangerous? What if she had betrayed her pack? His heart clenched, his fists tightening as he remembered the fear in her eyes, the pain in her voice, the way she trembled whenever he got too close. She was terrified, broken, fragile. But was it all an act? He shook his head, fury boiling within him as he slammed his fist onto the desk, the wood cracking beneath his strength. No, he wouldn't believe it, not without proof. I'll find out the truth. One way or another. He had already sent scouts to Blood Moon territory, his most trusted warriors tasked with gathering information, with digging up the past, with discovering the truth about Ella. But he couldn't wait. He needed answers now. He needed to hear it from her. Again. Lessons in trust. Ella's heart raced as she stood in the clearing, the forest around her whispering with the soft rustle of leaves, the air cool against her skin. She could feel his eyes on her, piercing, intense, watching her every move, every breath. It made her nervous. It made her heart flutter. It made her feel alive. Relax. Damien's voice was deep, steady, soothing as he stepped behind her, his presence commanding, overwhelming. You're too tense. You need to let go. Ella swallowed, her body trembling as his warmth surrounded her, his scent intoxicating. I can't. I'm scared. He moved closer, his chest brushing her back, his voice low and firm. Your wolf is strong. She just needs to be set free. His words wrapped around her, his confidence, his strength, his belief in her sinking into her bones, chasing away her fears. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding as she closed her eyes, reaching out to her wolf, to the voice that had been quiet for so long. I'm here. Her wolf's voice was soft, hesitant, a whisper in the back of her mind. I want to be free. Jace grabbed her arm and pulled her deeper into the side chamber, behind a stack of crumbled stones and an old wine rack. The torchlight died with a quiet flick of his fingers. The tunnel plunged into darkness. Then, a flicker of light. Not firelight. Blue, cold, faintly humming. The glow drifted closer, revealing a figure draped in velvet, slender, graceful, her silhouette smooth and practiced. Lila's second personal maid. But she wasn't alone. Hovering behind her was a shimmering shape, half hidden, almost invisible, like smoke wearing armor. The maid paused at the chamber's mouth. She tilted her head slightly and whispered, I know you're there. Marin's heart slammed against her ribs. Jace raised his dagger, ready, but the maid didn't enter. She knelt and set something gently on the floor. A sealed envelope tied with black twine. Her voice was soft. I've done what I can. Don't waste it. Then she turned and vanished, the strange figure melting into the dark with her. Jace exhaled shakily. Marin's hands were still trembling as she reached for the envelope. It bore the crest of the High Council. Inside was a single sheet of parchment, a list of names, council members, and next to 3 of them, the symbol of death. Lila's already moving against them, Marin whispered, one by one. Jace's voice was grim. She wants the council silenced before they uncover the seal's location. Marin's eyes met his. Then we have to get to them first. Wolves at the door. The night was colder than usual. A storm was gathering overhead, dark clouds swirling above the treetops, cloaking the moon in a shroud of shadow. Marin and Jace moved fast, their footsteps barely audible on the forest floor as they approached the stone manor of Elder Caro, one of the last council members untouched by Lila's web. Or so they hoped. The manor sat at the edge of the territory, quiet, too quiet. No lanterns burned, no guards at the gate, just the rustle of wind in the trees and the faint creak of old wood groaning. This doesn't feel right, Jace muttered. Marin nodded, her hand instinctively tightening on the dagger at her hip. He should have had watchers at the door, at least one. They moved in tandem, crouched low, stepping around the back where the servants' entrance stood ajar. Inside, the air reeked of smoke and copper. Blood. Jace raised a hand, signaling stillness. Then a whisper, a shuffle of movement. From behind the curtain, a man stumbled out, gray-haired, wide-eyed, soaked in blood. Elder Caro? Marin gasped. He looked at her, then collapsed into her arms, gasping for breath. She was here, he rasped. Who? Jace asked urgently, lowering him gently to the floor. Caro's trembling hand reached up and gripped Marin's tunic. Not just Lila, someone else, a man, eyes like ice. They took the seal. His body convulsed once, then went still. No, Marin whispered, but his heart had stopped. Damn it. Jace stood, his face pale with fury. We're too late. Before she could reply, a low growl echoed from the hallway. Then another, and another. Dozens of eyes gleamed in the shadows, gold, red, unnatural. Not wolves, not anymore. Jace drew his dagger. They've turned the guard. We need to run. Marin stood, eyes locked with his. No, she said, breath shaky. We fight. The first corrupted wolf lunged. Marin met it with steel. Blood and fire. The corridor exploded into chaos. Jace threw his arm in front of Marin, knocking aside the first beast with a brutal kick. It slammed into the wall with a sickening crunch, but more came behind it. Black-furred, eyes glowing red, mouths frothing with something not entirely wolf. Marin ducked as another lunged. Her dagger flashed upward, slicing clean through the creature's throat. Black blood sprayed, burning her skin like acid. These things aren't natural, she shouted. They're bound to her, Jace yelled back, swinging his blade in a wide arc, carving through 2 more. She's feeding them something. Dark magic or worse. They fought back to back, the bodies piling, but the beasts kept coming. Faster, more frenzied. From behind them, something cracked. The manor's walls groaned. A massive chandelier in the hall above creaked loose, crashing down in a storm of splinters and flame, scattering wolves with a wave of smoke and fire. Jace grabbed Marin's arm. "This way." They burst through a side door, stumbling into a narrow passage filled with dust and cobwebs. The sounds of snarling faded behind them, swallowed by the wailing fire spreading through Elder Caro's manor. They didn't stop running, not until they broke through a stone hatch in the floor of the old root cellar and fell into a cold, dry cavern beneath the hill. Silence, finally. Marin collapsed against the wall, gasping. Jace was bleeding from his shoulder, a deep bite already bruising purple. "Let me see it," she said, moving to tear her sleeve. "I'm fine." "You're not." He flinched as she cleaned the wound, her hands shaking. "If they're doing this to every council member," she whispered, "soon there won't be anyone left who can stand against her." Jace's eyes were grim. "There's someone left, someone who should have died a long time ago, a name my father never dared speak aloud." Marin stilled. "Who?" He looked up, jaw tight. "The first Hollow Moon Alpha." Her breath caught. "But the Hollow Moon line ended decades ago." He reached into his tunic and pulled out a pendant, a dark silver crest shaped like a crescent devouring the sun. "She didn't kill them all," Jace said. "One survived, and if he's still alive, he might be the only one strong enough to fight what's coming." Moonlight shone through the tall windows of Damien's study, casting long shadows across the floor. His desk was a mess, papers everywhere, maps marked with red lines, and reports filled with every bit of gossip and news about the Crescent Moon Pack. Damien leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. His mind was full of everything he had discovered. Ella, she wasn't the traitor. She was the victim. It had taken weeks of digging, paying off spies, questioning prisoners, and putting together the truth piece by piece. And all the signs pointed to one person, Lila. She had planned it all. The lies, the poison, the betrayal. She had used Kaden and destroyed Ella's life because she was jealous and greedy. Damien slammed his fist on the desk. The wood groaned under the force. His power flared in the air around him, thick with rage. How could he have been so blind? How could Kaden? That weak fool. Just then the door creaked open. Ella walked in quietly. Her presence was gentle, her aura calming. Her white hair flowed over her shoulders and her eyes sparkled in the moonlight. "Damien, you sent for me?" His chest tightened. She was beautiful, strong, and innocent, and she had been hurt so deeply, because of Lila. He stood up, his eyes serious, his energy protective and firm. "Ella, there's something you need to know." Her eyes widened with worry. "What is it?" He took a deep breath. "I've been looking into your past, why you were banished, what people said about you, and I found the truth." She froze, her voice shaking. "The truth?" He stepped closer, holding her gaze. "You were framed. Lila did it all. She poisoned the Luna, turned Kaden against you, and made everyone believe it was your fault." Ella's breath caught. She trembled. "Lila? It was her?" Damien's jaw tightened. "Yes. She wanted Kaden and power, and to get them, she ruined your life." Ella's legs gave out, but Damien caught her in his arms. She shook, gripping his shirt, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I suffered so much. I thought I was the problem, that I deserved it because I have a weak wolf. That I didn't love him enough." Damien pulled her close, his voice soft but firm. "You didn't. You were innocent, and she stole everything from you." Her sobs grew louder, her pain pouring out. "I lost everything, my pack, my pride, my hope." He held her tighter, his power wrapping around her like a shield. "You have me now. My pack. I'll protect you. No one will ever hurt you again." She looked up, eyes full of tears and light. "Damien, thank you for believing in me." His heart pounded. "I'll always believe in you, Ella." They stood together in silence, their souls reaching for one another. Warmth filled the room, but something cold was still lurking behind it. Damien pulled away slightly, his face serious again. "There's more. Something else you need to know? About Lila's pack." Ella tensed. "What is it?" He turned away, his voice low. "My parents were killed by them." Her breath stopped. "Killed?" His fists clenched, power buzzing in the air. "I was 17. They came in the night, no warning. They killed my parents and left me to die." Ella's heart broke, her whole body shaking. "Damien, I didn't know. He turned to her, pain written all over his face. His eyes were dark, his aura heavy with sorrow and anger. I barely made it out alive. After that night, I promised myself I'd get revenge. I wanted to destroy everyone who hurt my family. And now, knowing what Lila did to you, I won't let her get away with it. His energy sparked in the air, his power rising, eyes burning with rage. I'll make her pay. I'll destroy her and her whole pack. Ella's chest tightened, fear and sadness swirling inside her. Damien, revenge won't bring your parents back. It won't take away the pain. He looked at her, and for a moment his eyes softened. His power dimmed. No, but it will give me justice. It will give you justice, too. She gently took his hand, her fingers wrapping around his. Her warmth steadied him. Then let's face her, together. His heart pounded, his wolf inside him growling in agreement. He gripped her hand tighter, his voice low and sure. Together. But even as they stood side by side, their bond growing stronger, a shadow loomed in the distance. The real fight was just beginning. Lila's reign of terror. The throne room echoed with Lila's cold laughter, sending chills through everyone present. Her red dress flowed around her like spilled blood, and her eyes glowed with dark magic. Fear filled the air, thick and heavy, crushing the courage of every pack member in the room. The few remaining elders knelt before her. Their faces were pale, their eyes empty. The rest of the council had already been killed for daring to speak against her. Dark energy crackled around Lila, feeding on their fear. She rose from her throne slowly, like a predator eyeing its prey. Her gaze landed on Elder Marcus, the last one brave enough to stand against her. Her smile was cold, her words sharp. "You questioned me, Marcus. You spread talk of rebellion." Marcus trembled, his voice weak. I only wanted what was best for the pack, for our future." Lila laughed, the sound cruel and sharp. "The future belongs to me. Anyone who stands in my way doesn't deserve to see it." She lifted her hand. Shadows swirled around her fingers, growing darker and stronger. Marcus froze, fear filling his eyes. "No. Please, show mercy." Lila's eyes flashed with power. "Mercy is for the weak." The shadows struck, wrapping around Marcus like snakes. He screamed as they tightened, crushing him, stealing his life. In moments, his body turned to dust. He was gone, completely erased. The room fell into silence. The remaining elders shook with fear, their auras dimming. Lila looked down at them, power rising around her. "Let this be your warning. Disobey me, and this will be your end." She turned to her guards, her tone icy. "Hunt down every traitor, every whisper of rebellion, crush them all." The guards bowed, fear thick in their voices. "Yes, my queen." Lila watched them leave, her power swirling like a storm. Her grip on the pack was complete. She was the queen. No one dared defy her. But in the shadows something stirred, a spark of light. A name, Ella, and her cursed white wolf. Lila's eyes narrowed, power building around her. "I'll destroy you, Ella. I'll crush your light and wipe out your hope." The Forbidden Forest was unlike any place Marin had ever entered. Its trees were ancient, towering like sentinels, their trunks gnarled and blackened with time. Mist hung low and thick, curling around their feet like curious spirits. No birdsong, no wind, just the constant hush of things watching. Jace walked ahead, torch held high. Its flame flickered oddly, not because of wind, but something else, as if the very air resisted light. "How much farther?" Marin whispered, her voice swallowed by the gloom. "Another mile," he said, "if the maps are right." Marin glanced around, unease prickling down her spine, "and if they're not, then we die in here like everyone else who's ever tried." He said it with no trace of fear. That worried her more. They crossed an ancient stream, its waters pitch black and sluggish. Bones lay near the banks, not animal, wolf, twisted, cursed. The deeper they went, the stranger things became. Trees bent inwards, their branches forming twisted arches. The ground pulsed faintly under their boots as if it were alive. Symbols etched in stone glowed faintly as they passed, whispering in a language Marin couldn't understand. "Here," Jace said at last, stopping before a cave hidden behind a thick curtain of moss. "This is it." Marin hesitated. "How do you know?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped forward and pressed the silver pendant to the stone wall. The earth shuddered. Then the moss peeled back like skin, revealing an entrance lit with an eerie blue glow. From deep within, a voice echoed, deep and ragged, a growl laced with age and power. "Who dares disturb the last of the hollow moon?" Marin tensed. Jace dropped to one knee. Your blood, he said, his voice steady. Your kin and your only hope. Silence, then footsteps, slow, heavy, and from the darkness stepped a man cloaked in furs and scars, eyes silver like ice, face carved with war paint, a crescent mark burned into his chest. You bring war, the Hollow Moon Alpha said, and I do not fight for lost causes. Jace stood. Then fight for vengeance. The Alpha's eyes glinted. For vengeance, I will burn the sky. The fire crackled low within the hollow cave, shadows danced across the walls like ghosts. The Hollow Moon Alpha sat before it, silent, unmoving, a stone carved from memory and pain. Maren sat nearby, watching him with quiet unease. Jace paced restless. He hasn't said a word in hours. Give him time, Maren murmured. You don't carry eyes like that without having seen hell. At last, the Alpha spoke. I remember the night the moon bled. His voice was gravel. The fire dimmed as if listening. I was young, proud. My pack stood above the mountains, the strongest bloodline in the realm. We didn't bow, we didn't kneel, and for that she came. Lila? Jace asked. No, she was just a child then. But her mother, he trailed off. Sara, the serpent-blooded witch. She came with flowers in her hands and poison beneath her tongue. He stood slowly, walking to the cave mouth. Mist clung to him like morning silk. She seduced my brother first, promised him the moon and power. He believed her. He let her into our lands, into our hearts. What happened? Maren asked softly. She tore us apart from the inside, one by one, cursed our children, twisted our wolves. My brother died screaming with his insides turned to ash, our people scattered, our name buried. He turned back to them, his eyes burning silver. When I fled into these woods, I swore two things. I'd never answer another summons, and I'd never trust a whisper that spoke of witches or power again. But Lila isn't just another witch, Jace insisted. She's her daughter. She's continuing the same bloodline, the same war. She's worse, the Alpha growled. Sara corrupted, but Lila, she devours. Then help us. Jace stepped forward. If you knew the damage she caused. I know enough, the Alpha interrupted. You think I haven't heard the trees scream? The rivers mourn? You want a war, boy, but I only see a grave. He turned, moving deeper into the shadows of his cave. I do not fight ghosts, and I do not march toward death for a world that has already surrendered. Then you're no Alpha, Jace muttered. The old wolf paused. No, he said without turning. I was an Alpha, once. And then he was gone, swallowed by stone silence and the memories of a pack long to dust. Echoes of the Forsaken. The mist was thicker now, heavier, colder, as if the forest itself grieved their failure. Jace stormed ahead, his boots crunching against dead leaves and frost. Arrogant old coward, he spat. He let the world burn once, he's ready to do it again. Maren followed quietly, her eyes fixed on the twisted trees, her fingers brushing the silver pendant that still pulsed faintly at her throat. He lost everything, Jace. Maybe he's just broken. Then he should have said so, not hidden behind ghost stories. Jace stopped suddenly, jaw clenched. We don't have time to search for another ally. Lila's power is growing, the council is falling apart, and without proof of her darkness, no one will believe us, Maren finished, her voice low. Especially now that Elder Thorn is gone. They walked in silence for a while. The wind whispered secrets they didn't want to hear. When the trees began to thin, the edge of the forest appeared, pale light filtering through the leaves. They were almost out, almost safe. But Maren turned just once to glance back. There, high on a jagged rock behind the cave's entrance, she saw him. The Hollow Moon Alpha, watching, silent, a shadow cloaked in ancient pain, but he did not move, and he did not follow, far behind. Within the cave, the Alpha remained still long after they were gone. His hand rested on an old pendant blackened with age, a twin to the one Maren wore. A whisper curled through the cavern, soft, feminine, haunting. You cannot run from your blood forever. The Alpha clenched his jaw. I buried you, Sara. The voice only laughed. And still, I rise in your daughter. The fire sputtered. The cave grew colder. He exhaled, slow, broken. Moon, help me. I may have no choice. The cave was silent, but the past was not. As the Hollow Moon Alpha sat alone by the dying embers of the fire, the flickering flames seemed to peel back the years. The stones around him blurred, warped, until they became marble halls, warm sunlight, laughter. A time when the world was different. He was younger then, fierce, bold, the Alpha of the revered Hollow Moon Pack. His name was whispered with awe. His word was law, and she... Sarah? The witch with starfire in her eyes had come not as a threat, but as salvation. He had loved her. Foolishly, recklessly, entirely. You shouldn't be here, he'd told her, standing at the edge of the sacred clearing, knowing full well he'd summoned her himself. And yet, she'd whispered, stepping closer, you always call for me when the moon is full. Their love had been a fire, beautiful, secret, and dangerous. She had promised him power to protect his pack, to defy the elders who feared change, to reshape the realm, and he had taken it. Every drop, every whispered charm, every forbidden night, until the day she stood before him cradling a babe wrapped in midnight cloth. She has your eyes, Sarah said, a strange tenderness in her voice, but all he saw was a curse he wasn't ready to bear. No, that child, he shook his head. She's not Hollow Moon, she's not mine. Sarah's gaze had darkened. The magic in her veins shimmered. You deny her? I deny you. The fallout had been swift. Sarah disappeared into shadow, taking the child, Lila, with her. And in his shame he crafted a lie. He told his people it was his brother who had fallen, that he alone had fought to save them. He banished all memory of her from his heart, buried the name of the girl whose laughter once echoed in the caves. He aged alone, nursing his guilt, until now. Until she came back, no longer a child, but a queen in darkness. Lila, his daughter, his sin. Back in the present, the Hollow Moon Alpha rose slowly, his face hollow. I lied, he murmured to the silence. I lied to them, just like I lied to myself. He looked toward the edge of the cave where Marin and Jace had once stood. My blood walks the world again, soaked in ruin. A long pause. Then he turned to the back of the cave, where a hidden chamber lay sealed. He pressed his hand to the stone. It pulsed beneath his skin. Old wards shivered and cracked. I will not face her again, but I must make sure no one else ever becomes what she did. The stone door opened with a groan, and the Hollow Moon Alpha stepped into the past, toward the one thing that might destroy or redeem them all. No more howls in the hollow. The chamber had no air, only memories. The walls were carved with runes so old they bled sorrow. The Hollow Moon Alpha stood in the center, beneath the etching of a great wolf, wings outstretched, moon branded on its chest. This was where they laid down oaths, where bloodlines began, where his had ended. He knelt slowly, placing the pendant, once Sarah's, at the altar. The silver glinted faintly. I have lived a lie, he whispered, his voice barely a thread. My shame birthed a monster. He reached into the folds of his coat, pulling out a ceremonial dagger. Its hilt bore the mark of the first Alpha. I gave up everything, but the past never forgets. A single breath, one last whisper. Forgive me. The blade found its mark. Silence claimed the Hollow Moon. The last Alpha of the forgotten line collapsed, leaving nothing behind but echoes and the weight of the truth he dared not face in life. Meanwhile, the path back to the Nightshade Pack was longer than it should have been. Marin kept glancing over her shoulder, a weight building in her chest. Do you feel that? She asked. Jace frowned. Feel what? But then he heard it too, the rustle in the trees, the unnatural hush, too quiet, too still, and then thump. A body dropped in front of them. It was the messenger they'd sent ahead, eyes wide open, throat cut. Marin gasped. No, arrows flew. Too fast. Too many. Jace pushed her behind a tree, drawing his blade, but it was chaos. Figures cloaked in black shadows, branded with the mark of the crescent snake, Lila's secret guard. You should have stayed hidden, Marin, a female voice purred from the trees. The Alpha won't miss a ghost. Marin's eyes widened. That voice. Lila. Lila's personal female guard. She stepped out, blades in hand, a cruel smile on her face. No more messengers, no more meddling. Jace roared, charging forward, but it was too late. A blade pierced his side. Another took his throat. He collapsed at Marin's feet, eyes wide in disbelief. Marin screamed, her pendant glowing bright silver, once, twice, before dimming. She tried to run, tried to shift, but pain bloomed in her back, sharp and cold. Lyra stood over her, wiping blood from her cheek. The Hollow Moon's secrets die with you. The forest fell quiet again. No witnesses. No more hope. And in the shadows, Lyra whispered to the trees. They're gone, my lady, as you commanded. Far away in her moonlit chamber, Lila smiled. One threat silenced, only the throne remained. The training grounds were quiet, bathed in the soft gold of the setting sun. Ella stood alone, her body aching, skin slick with sweat, breath shallow from a full day of pushing herself past her limits. Every movement she'd made was an attempt to outrun the chaos in her heart. The past she couldn't change, the pain she carried, and the growing pull between her and Damien. But no amount of training could silence the storm inside her. "Ella." She turned sharply, startled by the familiar voice. Lucian stood behind her, steady, tall, his presence like a steady flame in the dark. There was something different in his eyes tonight, a quiet weight. She managed a tired smile. "Lucian, I didn't expect you here." He stepped closer, his aura calm, his voice careful. "I needed to talk. I couldn't keep this in anymore." Her smile faded, her chest tightened. "Is everything okay?" He shook his head gently. "No, but it will be. I need to say this." Lucian reached for her hand, his fingers warm and trembling. When their skin touched, something in Ella's breath hitched, not because of the mate bond, but because of how honest he looked. "I love you, Ella." Her world paused. "I've tried to fight it. I've tried to tell myself it would fade, that I could bury it, but it's only grown stronger." She pulled her hand back, stunned. "Lucian, I know," he said quickly, voice cracking. "I know you're bonded to Damien. I know what you two share, but my heart doesn't care about bonds. It chose you long before I realized it." Ella's throat closed. The training ground felt smaller, hotter. Her heart pounded with guilt and confusion. "Lucian, I care about you, but this isn't something I can give." He nodded, swallowing hard, forcing a bitter smile. "I didn't come here to take anything from you. I just need you to know, even if it breaks me, even if you never say it back." Tears stung her eyes. "Lucian, I'm so sorry." "Don't be." His voice softened. "Just promise me you'll be happy, that you'll live through this war and find peace. That's enough for me." He took a step back, his aura dimming, like a candle flickering against the wind. Then he turned and walked away, every step a wound she couldn't heal. Ella stood there, heart aching, soul unraveling. Why did love always come with such pain? But before she could sink too deep into the ache, a chill crept into the air. The shadows shifted. Far off, something dark stirred, foul and powerful. Lila. The war hadn't waited. It was already breathing down their necks, and no heart, whether broken or whole, would be spared. A warrior's rise and hearts entwined. The training grounds thrummed with energy, alive with the quiet hum of warriors gathered. Their faces were sharp, eyes burning with respect and curiosity, waiting for the moment to come. The sun cast long shadows, gilding the scene in golden light, while whispers rippled through the crowd like a rising tide. Ella stood at the center, unwavering. Her once fragile form had transformed, muscles defined beneath the dark leather armor that hugged her like a second skin, silver accents catching the light with every breath. The Shadow Fang emblem emblazoned on her chest was no longer just a symbol. It was a promise, a mark of her journey, her strength. Beside her, Damien's presence radiated power and pride. His eyes softened as they settled on her, protective and full of unwavering support. When he stepped forward, his voice rolled across the field with quiet authority. "Today we honor strength, courage, and loyalty." His gaze locked onto Ella's, and his tone softened. Ella has faced pain most would crumble under. Betrayal tried to break her, but she stood tall. She fought with us, bled with us, and shielded us. Murmurs of respect rippled through the warriors, their auras flickering with admiration. Damien's voice rang clear and steady, resolute as ever. "Today, I name her one of us. Ella is now a warrior of the Shadow Fang Pack." A roar of approval erupted, warriors pounding their chests, their auras flaring like wildfires. "For Shadow Fang!" Ella's heart thundered in her chest, eyes glistening with tears she refused to shed. This was more than acceptance. This was her rebirth, her new beginning forged in pain and triumph. Damien turned toward her, his gaze warm, voice soft with something tender. "You've earned this. Every scar, every battle, every part of who you are." She met his eyes, feeling her chest tighten with gratitude and something deeper. "Thank you for believing in me, even when I couldn't." A gentle smile curved his lips, his aura folding around her like a shield. "I'll always believe in you, no matter what." Her heart fluttered, spirit reaching for his in silent promise. With him by her side, she felt unstoppable, like she could face anything the world dared throw at her. Later that night, the night air was cool and still, the moonlight spilling silver over the forest like a gentle caress. Inside the great hall, the pack's celebration throbbed with laughter and music, their joy echoing through the walls. But Ella stood apart, outside on the balcony, her heart weighed down by swirling thoughts. She leaned against the railing, eyes tracing the glittering stars above, her chest tight with the weight of everything she'd endured. So much had changed. She was no longer the weak wolf, the slave, the outcast. She was a warrior now, strong, respected, unstoppable. Yet her heart twisted in knots, raw with emotions she barely understood. Damien's words replayed in her mind, his eyes haunting her, his touch lingering like a spark in the dark. Why did he make her feel so alive? So vulnerable? Ella. Her breath hitched, aura flaring as she spun around to find Damien standing behind her, tall, powerful, yet gentle. His dark eyes held concern, his presence overwhelming yet somehow comforting. "Why are you out here, alone?" She looked away, chest tightening. "I needed air. It's too much in there." He stepped closer, his aura folding around her like a protective shield. "I understand." Silence settled between them, thick and heavy. Damien's gaze drifted upward to the stars, voice soft, reverent. "You did well today. You deserve this, and so much more." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I never thought I'd be accepted, not after everything." His jaw clenched, aura flaring with fierce pride. "What they did to you, unforgivable. But you survived, you grew stronger, you rose." Her heart pounded, spirit reaching out. "I wouldn't have made it without you." He turned fully toward her, eyes burning with truth. "You're stronger than you know, Ella, always have been. I just helped you see it." Her breath caught, chest tightening. "Damien," he stepped closer, voice raw and low. "You deserve happiness. You deserve love. I want to give that to you." Her world stopped, body frozen, spirit trembling. "What?" His fingers brushed her cheek, warm and steady. "I can't hide this anymore. I want you. I want you by my side, always." Her eyes glistened, aura flickering uncertainly. "Damien, I don't know." His gaze softened, fingers lacing with hers, voice tender. "I'm not asking for answers now, just wanted you to know." She searched his eyes, heart aching, spirit yearning. "You really feel that?" He smiled, aura flaring, voice raw with emotion. "I've never felt like this before, not since." He faltered, eyes darkening. "Not since my parents were killed." Her breath caught, heart aching. "Damien," his jaw tightened, aura wavering. "I shut myself off from everything, everyone. But you made me feel again, made me believe." Tears pricked her eyes, chest tightening. I didn't know." He moved closer, aura enveloping her, voice low and steady. "We've both been broken. Maybe we can heal together." Her heart raced, spirit trembling, soul reaching. "Damien," he leaned in, breath warm against her skin, eyes blazing. "May I kiss you?" Her chest tightened, body frozen but spirit ablaze. "Yes." His lips met hers, soft, tender, fierce. Her heart exploded, spirit soaring, soul shattering all at once. His arms wrapped around her, aura wrapping around them both, his presence overwhelming and complete. When they parted, breaths mingling, eyes locked, he smiled. Voice raw, spirit trembling. "I'm not letting go, not now, not ever." Her heart fluttered, soul blazing, spirit entwined with his. She was his, and he was hers. But even as their hearts beat as one, darkness crept closer. Lila's evil spread like wildfire, unrelenting, unstoppable. The storm was far from over. The Queen's cruel game. The heavy door to Alpha Kaden's chamber swung open without invitation. Lila stepped in, her black silk dress trailing behind her like a shadow. Her eyes sparkled with wicked amusement. Kaden sat by the fire, his posture rigid but empty, his mind clearly no longer his own. She smiled, voice dripping with mockery. "Alpha Kaden, still pretending to be in control, I see." Without hesitation, Lila signaled to one of her personal guards, a tall, fierce man with eyes as cold as ice. The guard stepped forward, and without breaking the Alpha's gaze, Lila pressed close to him. Slowly, deliberately, the guard's hands began exploring Lila's body, their movements bold and unashamed. Kaden watched silently, his eyes glazed, powerless to intervene. Lila's laughter echoed softly in the chamber as she let herself be touched, her every move a calculated show of dominance and disdain. "Look at you," Lila whispered to Kaden, her voice a venomous caress. "Helpless, a puppet dancing on my strings." Kaden's expression betrayed nothing but hollow obedience. She leaned closer, her breath warm against his ear. "You're nothing but a fool now, and everyone will see." The guard's hands roamed freely, the unspoken message clear. Lila ruled here. Kaden remained frozen, trapped behind invisible chains woven by her dark magic. When the guard finally pulled away, Lila gave one last mocking smile before turning on her heel and leaving Kaden alone, humiliated, broken, and utterly controlled. Kaden sank into his chair, fingers clenched tightly on the armrests as the last echoes of Lila's laughter faded into the dark. His mind was a battlefield, a war between the fading spark of his true self and the crushing grip of the dark magic strangling his will. He saw everything, her mocking smile, the boldness of her guard, the way she made him a prisoner in his own home. But he could do nothing. His voice was silent, his power shackled. A deep, aching rage boiled beneath his calm facade, not just at Lila, but at himself. How had he fallen so far? The Alpha who once commanded respect now sat a helpless spectator to his own disgrace. He swallowed hard, forcing down the bitterness that threatened to consume him. Outside, the pack stirred, whispers spreading like wildfire. Lila's hold grows stronger. Alpha Kaden is lost. Kaden sat alone in his chamber, the fire's glow casting flickering shadows on the walls. His mind drifted back to a time before the darkness, before he lost control. He remembered Ella, loyal, true, the one who had warned him, begged him to see Lila's real face. But he had turned away. He had chosen to trust Lila, blinded by promises and the lies she wove so effortlessly. A cold ache settled in his chest. How could I have been so blind, he thought, bitterness rising like poison. Ella had wanted to stand by him, to help him in fighting to protect the pack, and I pushed her away. Now everything was lost. Lila's grip tightened, the pack slipping further into shadow. Despite his weak state, Kaden's hands clenched into fists, the weight of regret crushing him. If only I had listened. If only I had believed. But it was too late, and all that remained was the hollow echo of a mistake that might cost them everything. Few days later, whispers had reached Lila's ears. A maid within the pack dared to seek a way to break the chains binding Alpha Kaden's mind. Her curiosity piqued. Lila decided to pay a visit, one that would remind everyone who truly ruled. Kaden's chamber was dimly lit, the flicker of the fire casting long shadows. The door opened silently. Lila entered, followed by the maid, a trembling girl clutching a small vial, her eyes full of desperate hope. Kaden's gaze flickered with something like recognition and fear. Lila's smile was cold, sharp as a blade. "So," she whispered, voice dripping poison, "you think you can save him?" The maid's hands shook as she stepped forward. "Alpha Kaden," the maid cried out in panic. "Let her go, please," Kaden said with a trembling voice. "Oh, you can still talk? Lila, please, knee and beg me." "What?" the maid gasps out. "I'm already on my knees. Let her go. You are so pathetic." Before she could speak, Lila's fingers snapped, a shadowy tendril of magic darting out. The maid gasped, eyes widening in shock as the vial shattered in her palm. Pain twisted her face. Kaden's voice was lost to the darkness that gripped him. He could only watch. The maid collapsed, silent and still, the life draining from her body. Lila bent close, her breath icy. "Let this be a lesson," she hissed. "No one defies me." She turned to Kaden, her eyes mocking. "Your saviors are nothing but ghosts. No one can save you from my grip, you fool." And with that, she vanished into the night, leaving the helpless Alpha alone with his shame and the corpse of hope. The weight of responsibility. Ella stood tall before the assembled warriors, her spine straight, chin lifted with quiet determination. The training grounds buzzed with the clashing of swords, the thuds of bodies hitting earth, and the grunts of exertion. Dust hung thick in the air, mixed with sweat and the fierce scent of unyielding resolve. She was no longer just a survivor, no longer the weak wolf, no longer a slave. She had become a warrior, a guardian of the Shadow Fang Pack. But with that title came heavy burdens, expectations, scrutiny, and eyes that followed her every move. "Keep your eyes forward, Ella," Damien's voice cut through the noise, firm yet gentle. He stood behind her, arms crossed, a steady presence anchoring her. "You don't just react to your enemy's moves, you anticipate them." Ella swallowed the racing in her chest, spirit burning fiercely. "Yes, Alpha?" A soft smile curved Damien's lips. "You don't have to call me that, you know?" A flush crept up her cheeks, aura flickering with sudden warmth. "I know, but it feels right." He stepped closer, his aura wrapping around her like a shield, voice dropping low. "What feels right is having you by my side." Her heart skipped a beat, spirit trembling with something she couldn't name. Why did he always make her feel so exposed? Before she could answer, a sharp, mocking voice cut in. Well, looks like the Alpha's got a soft spot. Ella whipped around, muscles tensing, aura flaring in warning. Zara stood there, one of the pack's fiercest warriors, beautiful, fierce, and radiating ambition. Her eyes were icy, posture proud, aura simmering with barely concealed jealousy. Damien's jaw tightened, his gaze cold as steel. "Zara, watch your words." Zara's lips curled into a sly smirk, eyes narrowing like a predator sizing up prey. "Just stating the obvious, not everyone thinks she deserves to be one of us." Ella's chest constricted, spirit faltering for a moment. She knew this type all too well, strong, confident, prideful, the kind who saw any hint of weakness as a threat, the kind who would never accept her. Not as a warrior. Not as Damien's equal. Damien's aura flared, voice sharp and uncompromising. "Ella has earned her place. Anyone who questions that questions me." Zara's eyes flickered with resentment, jaw clenching tightly. "Of course, Alpha." She spun away, her presence heavy with bitter disdain. Damien exhaled slowly, shoulders easing as his gaze softened. "Don't let her get under your skin." Ella drew in a steadying breath, aura settling back to calm strength. "I won't. I've faced worse." A proud gleam shone in his eyes. "That's my warrior." Her heart pounded, spirit ablaze. His warrior. The moon hung like a silent sentinel in the sky, casting silver light across the forest, painting the trees and river in an otherworldly glow. The night was still, the air cool and sharp, as though the world itself was holding its breath. But inside Ella's chest, a storm raged, untamed and unrelenting. She stood at the edge of the riverbank, her reflection rippling in the moonlit water. Her body ached from relentless training, muscles sore, bones heavy, but her spirit thrummed with a strange, wild energy. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, no longer just a whisper, but a rising force. Yet with that power came something more dangerous. Feelings she couldn't suppress, emotions that surged every time Damien drew near. The way his gaze lingered on her, the brush of his fingers, the quiet strength of his voice. Her pulse would quicken, her spirit would blaze, and her soul, God's help her, would tremble. She shut her eyes tightly, chest constricting with a mix of longing and fear. Why him? Why now? Why did his very presence set her on fire and yet leave her feeling so bare, so exposed? "Ella?" The voice cut through the night like a blade wrapped in velvet. Her eyes flew open, heart lurching as she turned. Damien stood behind her, his tall frame haloed by moonlight, his presence overwhelming in its quiet intensity. His gaze was steady, dark with emotion, but his tone was soft. "You shouldn't be out here alone." She turned back to the water, arms folding across her chest. "I just needed air, space to think." He stepped closer, his aura wrapping around her like a second skin. "You're restless." She gave a small nod, throat tight. "There's a lot on my mind." His hand reached out, warm fingers brushing her shoulder, a touch so simple, yet grounding. "You don't have to carry it all alone. Not anymore." Her breath caught. The sincerity in his voice, the way it peeled back her defenses. I know," she whispered. His hand lingered, then slid gently down her arm. "Then let me carry some of it with you. Let me in, Ella." Her eyes fluttered shut as a war raged inside her. Her instinct wanted to pull away, but her soul, it leaned into him. Then he did the one thing that broke her. He cupped her face, thumb brushing along her cheek. His eyes burned with truth. "I care about you, Ella, more than I ever intended, more than I've ever cared about anyone." Her lips parted, a breath catching in her throat. "Damien, He leaned forward, forehead pressing gently against hers. "I won't push. I won't force anything, but you need to know you're mine." Her aura trembled, her spirit both awakened and shattered in the same breath. "I want to be," she whispered. "But," his jaw clenched, "but what?" She looked away, pain etched in every syllable. "I'm broken. I've been used, betrayed. I don't know if I have anything left to give. I don't know if I can love like that again." His arms came around her, pulling her against his chest, his voice low but certain. "Then I'll wait. I'll fight for you, for us, because you're worth it. Every scar, every shadow, you're worth everything." Tears slipped down her cheeks, her defenses dissolving like mist. "Damien." He kissed her, not with urgency but with reverence. A soft, aching promise pressed to her lips. Her body melted into his, soul catching fire, spirit threading with his like it always belonged there. When he pulled back, his voice was rough with emotion. "I'm not letting you go, Ella. Not now. Not ever." And in the stillness, under the moon's quiet watch, her heart answered the truth it had always known. She was his, and he was hers. But unknownly to them, someone stood among the shadowed trees, silently watching them. It was Beta Lucian. Lucian stood in the shadows, watching quietly. His heart hurt as he saw Damien looking at her, touching her, and how she relaxed in his arms. His chest felt tight and his spirit shook. Why did it have to be Damien? Why did she have to love him? His hands clenched into fists. Why did he fall for someone he could never have? He turned away, feeling heavy and broken inside. He loved her, but she would never be his. Still, even as he walked away, a small fire burned inside him. He wasn't ready to give up yet. Meanwhile, the warm glow of the firelight flickered across the faces of Zara and her closest friends, gathered in the secluded corner of the camp. Laughter and light chatter filled the air as they sipped on herbal tea and nibbled on roasted nuts, the night wrapping around them like a cloak of secrecy. "Zara, you really have come into your own," one of the women said, eyes gleaming. "I've never seen anyone match the Alpha's strength the way you do. You two are practically inseparable." Another chimed in with a smile. "Yeah, it's like you're his shadow, always by his side, ready to back him up. You're the fiercest warrior among us." Zara's chest swelled with pride. She basked in their admiration, the glow of their praise feeding her ego like wildfire. "It's not easy, you know," she said modestly, though her eyes sparkled with satisfaction. "But with Damien, I feel like I'm meant to be here, like I belong." The circle nodded, their approval unanimous. For a moment, Zara allowed herself to imagine a future where she stood firmly beside Damien, not just as a warrior, but as someone he truly valued. Then, with a careless chuckle, another voice broke the mood. "But have you noticed something about Ella?" one friend asked, tilting her head. "The way Damien looks at her sometimes, like she's more than just another warrior." The group fell silent, the question hanging heavy in the air. Zara's heart clenched. She forced a smile, but inside a dark seed of doubt took root. "What do you mean?" she asked, voice sharper than she intended. "Oh, it's nothing definite," the woman hurried on. "Just sometimes when Damien thinks no one's watching, he softens around her, like she's special to him. And Ella, she's changed so much lately. Stronger, more confident." The others murmured in agreement, eyes flickering between Zara and the thought of Ella. Zara's jaw tightened, her mind racing. How could this be? Was Damien truly drawn to that girl? Was Ella becoming a threat to everything Zara had worked for? Her fingers curled into fists as a fierce resolve took hold. No, she wouldn't let that happen. Not if it meant losing Damien's attention. Not if it meant being overshadowed by someone she saw as weak, unworthy. "I'll be keeping a closer eye on her," Zara said quietly, her voice cold with determination. "If Ella thinks she can waltz in and take what's mine, she's in for a rude awakening." The fire crackled, casting long shadows over her face, mirroring the jealousy burning deep inside her. Lucian stood at the edge of the training ground, watching Ella spar with a seasoned warrior. Her moves were now fast and strong, her confidence growing every day. But what hurt him most was her smile, the smile she only gave to Damien. His chest tightened and his spirit shook. She would never smile like that at him. He saw Damien step closer, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. Ella laughed, her eyes shining as their spirits connected. Lucian's heart ached, his hands clenched. Why did it have to be Damien? Why couldn't it be him? He hasn't found his mate yet. He hoped the moon goddess would mate him with Ella the first time he sets his eyes on her, but she disappointed him. He turned away, torn between his loyalty to Damien and his own feelings for Ella. He loved her, but she wasn't his to love. Still, he made a silent promise to protect her, even if it meant watching her fall for another. While Lucian secretly fought with his feelings, Zara is burning with jealousy. In the arena, Zara watched with narrowed eyes, her jealousy burning inside her. She saw Damien's soft gaze on Ella, saw Ella's laughter and blushing. That smile was meant for her, not for some weak orphan. She had fought by Damien's side, earned his respect, but now he only had eyes for Ella. Her heart ached and her spirit darkened. Why couldn't he see her? Why couldn't he love her? Then a cold plan formed in her mind. The monthly fighting arena was coming, a chance to prove who truly deserved to stand beside Damien. Zara would make sure Ella learned the hard way. She walked away, her heart full of resentment and her mind set on revenge. The trap is set. The day of the arena had come. The place buzzed with excitement. Warriors stood ready, their energy strong. The crowd cheered loudly, eyes full of fire. Ella stood tall, her back straight and her head held high. She had trained hard and was ready to prove herself, but she felt the heavy stare of many around her, watching, judging, not believing she belonged. She's just a weak orphan. She's only here because of the Alpha. Her chest tightened. Would they ever accept her? Damien's hand touched her shoulder gently. She looked up and saw him, calm and protective. "You're ready, Ella. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." Her heart beat fast. "I won't let you down." He smiled warmly. "You never could." Then Zara stepped forward, proud and cold. "Ready to be humiliated, orphan?" Ella's eyes narrowed. "We'll see who's humiliated in the end." Zara's smile was sharp. "I'm looking forward to it." Ella's spirit burned bright. She wouldn't give Zara the satisfaction. But Zara had already set a trap, one that would humiliate Ella in front of everyone and try to break her spirit. Zara wanted Damien to see who really deserved to stand by his side. Hidden in the shadows, Lucian watched, his heart pounding. He saw the hatred in Zara's eyes as she looked at Ella. He saw the cruel plan she had made to humiliate her. His jaw clenched. He would not let that happen. No one would hurt Ella. He stepped forward, his spirit strong and steady. He would protect her, even if she never knew. His eyes softened with pain. He would always protect her, even if she could never be his. Lucian's quiet help. Lucian moved silently, watching Zara carefully. He knew her jealousy well. He saw the hate burning inside her every time she looked at Ella. When he heard her plotting to humiliate Ella in the arena, his chest tightened. How low would she go? His eyes darkened with anger. No way would he let her succeed. He saw Zara order 2 warriors to sabotage Ella's training gear to make sure she failed and looked weak in front of everyone. Zara's cruel smile made Lucian's blood boil. Once Zara left, laughing and full of hate, Lucian stepped out of the shadows. His mind was clear, his purpose set. He carefully fixed the broken equipment, checking every part twice. Ella would not fail today, not because of Zara's tricks. When he finished, he stepped back, alert and ready. He couldn't fight for her openly, but from the shadows he would protect her. And he always would. The fighting arena. The arena continued to buzz with energy. The crowd roared with excitement, eyes shining as warriors lined up, ready to prove their strength. Ella stood among them, her back straight, her chin up. She felt their stares, heard the whispers. She doesn't belong here. Just a weak orphan. She's only here because of the Alpha. But she blocked it all out. She had trained hard, and she was ready to fight. She belonged here, no matter what they said. Across the arena, her eyes found Damien. His calm gaze and steady presence gave her strength. She nodded once. She could do this. The first round began, tests of strength, speed, and skill. Ella moved quickly, jumping, dodging, striking with precision. She gave it her all, never losing focus. She felt Zara watching her, felt the jealousy in her glare. But she didn't care. She wouldn't give Zara the win. Then came the final challenge, climbing a tall wall using only ropes. Ella reached out and grabbed the rope. It felt strange, too loose, almost weak. Doubt crept in. Was this the trap? No. She shook it off. She wasn't going to let fear stop her. She climbed, pulling herself higher, muscles burning, sweat dripping. The crowd went quiet watching. Zara waited for her to fall. But Ella kept going. Then she reached the top. The arena exploded in cheers. Warriors clapped. Damien smiled proudly. Ella stood tall, breathing hard but smiling. She had done it. Zara's face twisted with anger. Her plan had failed. Instead of humiliating Ella, she had only made her shine brighter. "Watch out, orphan. This is just the beginning." Damien watched as Ella climbed down, his heart pounding with pride. She had done it. She proved her strength and courage in front of everyone. But something didn't feel right. He remembered Zara's face earlier, the smug look like she was waiting for Ella to fail. Then, when Ella succeeded, Zara's smile disappeared. She looked furious. Damien's jaw clenched. This wasn't just about getting envious of her little successes or jealousy. Zara had really expected something to go wrong. But why? His eyes moved to Lucian, who stood quietly at the edge of the arena. His gaze was fixed on Ella, his stance tense and protective. Had Lucian seen something too? Had he stopped something from happening around the arena? Damien's chest tightened. Zara had planned something, and Lucian might know the truth. Zara's growing resentment. Zara stormed away from the arena, her heart pounding with anger. Everything had been planned. Ella was supposed to fail in front of everyone. She was supposed to fall and be humiliated. But she didn't. Instead, she won, and the crowd cheered for her. Zara's hands shook with rage. Someone had ruined her plan. She thought of Lucian, always watching from the shadows of the scene. Always near Ella. Could he have stopped it? Her anger grew. If Lucian was helping Ella, then he was against her too. Ella had taken the spotlight, Damien's attention. The respect Zara had worked so hard for within the pack. She wouldn't let it happen again. With her eyes burning with hatred and her thoughts spinning with more scheming ideas, Zara walked away. She needed a new plan. Next time, Ella wouldn't win. Lucian watched from the shadows of the scene as Zara stormed off, her face twisted with anger. She was furious, and he knew she wasn't done. She would certainly try again. He turned his eyes back to Ella. She was smiling, proud and strong. She had proven herself to everyone today. But Lucian knew the danger wasn't over. He stepped deeper further into the shadows, his mind made up. He would protect her no matter what, even if it meant going against Zara, even if it meant breaking his loyalty to Damien, even if it cost him everything. He would keep her safe, even if she never knew. Meanwhile, Zara paced her room, seething. Ella's victory haunted her. She had planned everything perfectly. How then did it all go wrong? Her hands curled into fists. Someone had stopped her plan. And she knew exactly who. Lucian. Always lurking, always watching out for Ella. That fool, that scheming bitch, who pretends to be a damsel in distress just to get the Alpha's attention. God! How I hate that sliming bitch! I must teach her a lesson. A wicked smile spread across her face. If Lucian wanted to protect Ella, then she would take them both down. She walked to her vanity and pulled out a hidden vial, given to her as a gift from the healer's supplies. The liquid shimmered faintly. A poison, slow and deadly. No one would suspect it. She would poison Ella, bit by bit, quietly, painfully. And Lucian? He would watch helplessly. The thought filled her with twisted joy. Soon Ella's light would fade, and Lucian's hope would die with it. It wasn't up to 30 minutes later after the battle at the arena when Lucian saw Zara doing hide-and-seek around the kitchen vicinity. The way her eyes darts to the right and left felt somehow, and Lucian instantly felt it in his gut. Something was wrong. The look in Zara's eyes, the dark edge in her composure, she was definitely planning something bad. So, he kept close, hidden at the back of the big oak tree, a leap walk away from the kitchen building, watching her every move. He wouldn't let her hurt anyone. Especially Ella, not again. When Zara slipped into the kitchen, moving quickly and quietly, his suspicion grew stronger. He followed her, silent as a shadow. Then he saw it. She pulled out a small vial and poured a strange-looking, shimmering liquid into a bowl of food possibly meant for someone to eat. God, how come none of the maids are around? Soon she carefully stirred the food, washed her hands, and at once she left, smiling to herself. Lucian stepped out. His expression was cold, his mind clear. He grabbed the bowl and sniffed it. What poison? My goodness, she actually added poison to someone's food. He said in dismay on recognizing the smell of the lethal poison not everyone can easily detect. Wait a minute, isn't this Ella's favorite color of plate? He asked himself on careful observation. She actually wanted her dead? Poison on an innocent girl's food? Lucian's chest tightened with anger. How far was Zara willing to go? Quickly he threw it out. Ella would not be harmed, not on his watch. What should he do next? Confront her directly? Report her to Damien? Zara is very cunning and crafty. She will definitely deny it without a solid proof from him. Looking confused with his heart pounded and his resolve burning. He knew Zara would try again, but so would he. So he would protect Ella, always, even if she never knew. Zara's boiling rage. 40 minutes later, Zara made her way to the Alpha's house, hoping to hear bad news about Ella. Maybe she had fallen ill or probably dead from the poison. She wore a calm smile, masking her true hopes, but what she saw stopped her cold. In the training yard, Damien and Lucian were both with Ella, training her, guiding her, encouraging her to become stronger. And the bitch herself? Ella, she looked strong, healthy, even smiling. Zara's heart dropped, her smile faltering. Why isn't the poison working, she thought. Was it too weak to get her killed in few minutes? Her fury simmered beneath her skin. As she stood watching with her heart racing fast in rage of fury, Lucian turned to her with a sly smile and said, "Zara, maybe you'd like to train Ella for a bit? Train her?" It was a deliberate jab, and her anger toward him grew bigger. She could have loved to get him slain right there and now, but instead, she forced a polite smile and shook her head. Not today, Beta Lucian. But inside she was seething. She watched them a moment longer, how Damien's gaze softened around Ella, how Lucian stayed close, always alert like a well-trained personal puppy. Unable to take it anymore, Zara left. Her heart burned with increased jealousy and her mind spinning with rage. If the poison didn't work, she would find another way. Ella would suffer. She swore it. Damien watched the both of from a distance, his eyes narrowing with worry. He caught the sharp tension between Zara and Lucian, and the way Zara looked at Ella with something like jealousy blazing beneath her smile. Something was off, and Zara was right in the middle of it. He walked over to Ella, his voice calm but firm. "Are you all right?" Ella turned to him, smiling with quiet strength. "I'm fine, Alpha. Lucian offered to train me today." His chest tightened. Lucian, always watching her, always stepping in to protect her, but from what exactly? Damien clenched his jaw. He couldn't let his feelings distract him. He needed answers about Zara's behavior, Lucian's secrets, and why his instincts screamed that Ella was in danger. He watched Zara leave the grounds, her steps sharp, her aura flaring with anger. Damien's gaze hardened. He would get to the bottom of this. He would protect Ella, no matter what it took. But when he turned back to her, something shifted inside him. Her focus, her fire while at training, it pulled at something deep in him. She is mate. Although he hasn't marked her yet. Why has he marked her yet? Is this the reason why he feels this way? Why did keeping her safe feel like more than the duties of an alpha? His eyes lingered on her, softening. "Ella, what are you doing to me?" Well, later that evening, Damien stood with Lucian near the edge of the training grounds, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "You've been quiet," Damien said, his voice low, "but I've seen the way you watch Zara around Ella. What's going on?" Lucian hesitated for only a second before speaking. "Zara's not just jealous, Damien. She's dangerous. She's tried to hurt Ella more than once." Damien's jaw clenched. "Explain." Lucian told him everything. How Zara tried to poison Ella, how she swapped a practice weapon with a real blade, how he'd stepped in each time to protect her. As the truth unraveled, Damien's aura flared with fury. "She what?" he growled, rage burning behind his eyes. Without wasting a moment, he called for 2 guards. "Bring Zara. Now." Minutes later, Zara stood before them in the Alpha's hall, her expression trembling between fear and indignation. Lucian stood off to the side, arms folded, gaze cold. Damien stepped forward. "Lucian claims you've tried to harm Ella, poison, a real sword during training. You've been scheming behind my back." Zara's eyes widened. Tears welled up immediately. "Damien, I would never. Lucian, he's lying. He's using Ella to come between us. He's always hated how close we are." Her voice cracked, her tears falling freely. "You know me. You know I wouldn't do something like that." Mucus runs freely from her nostrils. She keeps trying to wipe them with her palm. Damien's eyes flicked between her and Lucian, tension crackling in the room. After a long pause, he let out a sharp breath. "I don't know what to believe right now, but hear this. If anything happens to Ella, if I even sense you're involved, there will be consequences." Zara nodded quickly, her tears still falling. "Of course, Alpha." "Leave," Damien ordered. As the doors closed behind her, Damien turned to Lucian. "Keep your eyes on her. And on Ella." Lucian nodded. "I will." Damien ran a hand down his face, his expression tight. "I have Alpha duties to handle. I can't always be there, but I won't let anything happen to Ella." Lucian's voice was firm. "She's safe with me." And though Damien gave a small nod, something deep in his chest twisted. He trusted Lucian, but the thought of anyone else being Ella's shield unsettled him more than he cared to admit. Zara's blazing fury. Zara stormed through the halls of the Pax estate, her heels echoing like thunder. Her chest heaved, her aura crackling with barely restrained rage. Lucian? He had betrayed her, going behind her back, twisting the Alpha against her with tales of failed schemes and poison. And Damien, he had looked at her like she was a criminal. like she was nothing. Her fingers curled into fists, all because of Ella, that bitch who came to Pack to destroy her hard-earned reputation. The name burned through her like fire. Ella had stolen everything: Damien's attention, Lucian's loyalty, the admiration of the Pack. No matter how many times Zara tried to put her back in her place, she always rose higher. And now, because of Lucian's accusations, her bond with Damien was fractured. Her carefully crafted image was crumbling, and the worst part? Damien believed him. Zara's eyes darkened, her aura flickering with vengeance. "This is your fault, Ella," she hissed to herself. "You've turned them all against me." She kept on pacing around her room like a caged wolf, by fury building with every step. Every smile Ella wore, every victory she claimed, every glance Damien spared her. It was fuel to the fire raging inside Zara. "Gosh! I fucking hate her! I hate that lowlife bitch!" Zara paced like a storm trapped in a cage, her nails digging into her palms, fury pulsing through every step. "Damien is supposed to be mine. I'm sure the moon goddess would have made me his mate if she didn't just appeared from nowhere. God, I am the strongest she-wolf in the Pack. Who else would he have chosen for a mate, if not me, Zara? And she spoiled it all for me. Ella, Ella!" That name clawed at her mind like a curse. That girl, insignificant, undeserving, was stealing everything that belonged to her in the first place. The praises, the admiration, the loyalty of the Pack. And Lucian, that traitor, hovered like a silent guardian at her side. If they thought she was dangerous before, they hadn't seen anything yet. Lucian might have ruined her plans for now, but she wasn't finished. Not even close. If Ella wanted to play the Golden Warrior, then she would make sure she fell in the most painful, public way possible. No. No more. She couldn't bring her down alone. Not anymore. What she needed now was power. True, merciless power. And she knew exactly where to find it. Her thoughts drifted to a name whispered only in fear. Lila, Luna of the Shadow Claw Pack. A sorceress cloaked in secrets and soaked in blood. Rumors claimed she had taken her position through spells, shadows, and slaughter. No one dared cross her. But Zara wasn't afraid. She needed an ally, someone with magic dark enough to do what she could not. Sitting at her desk, she dipped her quill in ink and wrote, her hand steady despite the fury burning inside her. "Luna Lila, I know the truth behind your rise. The spells, the deaths, the blood you silenced. But I'm not here to judge. I want something in return. Her, Ella. I want her gone from my Pack. For good. Help me erase her, and your secret stays buried. Refuse." And the truth spreads like wildfire. She folded the letter carefully, sealing it with her crest and a thread of her aura just enough to prove her identity. Her trusted courier departed under moonlight, unaware of the danger he carried. Zara stood by the window, watching the night stretch endlessly before her, a cruel smile curling her lips. Soon, Ella would fall, and no one would be able to stop it. But what Zara failed to sense, blinded by obsession, was that she was no longer moving in the dark. Lucian had eyes everywhere, and the Alpha had already begun setting a trap of his own. Damien stood at the edge of the woods, shadows clinging to his form, his aura pulsing with fury. His eyes followed Zara's messenger vanishing into the night, and every step the courier took ignited a deeper burn in his chest. Quickly, the messenger was caught and brought to him. He took the secret letter from him before he killed him. A secret letter to Lila? The moment her name crossed his sight in the letter, a growl rumbled in his throat. He turned to Lucian, who stood rigid beside him, the beta's eyes cold and voice tight with anger. "So it's true," Damien said, his voice low and dangerous. "Zara's been plotting, and she reached out to her." Lucian's jaw tensed. "I knew she was growing desperate. I just never thought she'd fall this far. She tried to use dark magic to kill someone under my protection," Damien said, his aura flaring. "I won't let it slide. Not this." Lucian gave a sharp nod. "What do we do?" Damien's eyes blazed with purpose. "We end it. Tonight. She doesn't get another chance." The confrontation, truth torn open. Zara paced the pack house like a caged wolf, her heart pounding, her mind racing. The message would reach Lila soon. Everything would fall into place. Ella would finally be gone. The door slammed open. Damien stormed in like a tempest, his eyes burning, his power suffocating. Lucian followed, his face a mask of fury, his aura taut with restraint. Zara froze. "Alpha?" she said, her voice tight, forced. "What's going on?" Damien didn't answer. He flung the crumpled letter to the ground at her feet. She stared at it, her breath catching. Recognition struck like a blade to the chest. Lucian's voice was like ice. "Your schemes are over." "I know, you don't understand," she stammered, her voice cracking. "It's not what it looks like. I was only trying to kill Ella?" Damien snarled. "To align with the one creature who drenched her pack in blood and shadows? You would have sacrificed your own people just to feed your hatred?" Zara took a step back, her mask crumbling. I only wanted to be Luna?" Lucian spat. "You wanted the title, not the duty. You betrayed your pack. You betrayed him, the same person you claimed to be in love with." Zara's legs gave out, and she dropped to her knees, shaking. "Please, I loved you, Damien. I only wanted to be by your side." Damien's stare was a blade. "Love? You call this love? Manipulation, poison, treachery? That's not love. That's obsession." Zara sobbed, her hands clutching her chest. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. She forced me." "What the fuck are you talking about? She forced you?" Damien said, his voice like stone. "You threatened someone under my protection. You plotted with our enemies. You broke every vow a pack wolf is bound to." He took a step forward, power radiating off him like heat. "Zara of the Nightfang Pack, I strip you of your rank and your rights. You are hereby banished. You will leave this land by sunrise, and if you return, you will not walk out again." Zara's breath caught, her chest constricting as the word echoed in her mind. Banishment. To live as a rogue, exiled, stripped of rank, of home, of purpose. To be nothing. She turned to Lucian, desperation clouding her eyes. "Lucian," she whispered, reaching for the last thread of hope, but his gaze was steel, cold, final. He didn't speak, he didn't flinch, he simply looked away, his silence louder than any words. Damien's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Escort her out of the territory, ensure she never sets foot here again." Two warriors stepped forward, their grips unrelenting, their expressions unreadable. Zara thrashed, her voice rising in anguish. "Please, Damien, Lucian, don't do this. I was only—" But there was no forgiveness, no sympathy, only the sound of her screams echoing down the halls, growing fainter as she was dragged into the night. Damien stood silent, jaw clenched, the weight of the moment heavy on his shoulders. He hadn't wanted it to end like this, but he had made his choice. He turned to Lucian, voice low, hard. "Double the patrols. Zara won't let this go quietly. I want eyes on every border." Lucian gave a single nod, his expression grim. "I'll guard Ella myself. No harm will come to her." Damien nodded, but something sharp twisted in his gut. Lucian's loyalty, was it still his? Or had it shifted to her? He didn't ask. He couldn't, not now. There were greater threats ahead, and Ella needed protection more than ever. Cast out in chains and rage. The cold night wind whipped through the trees as the guards dragged Zara through the forest, her wrists bruised, her clothes torn from the struggle. The towering gates of the Nightfang Pack border loomed ahead, the final threshold between her and the only life she had ever known. With a grunt, one of the warriors shoved her forward. She stumbled, falling hard into the dirt just beyond the border. "This is where traitors belong," one guard sneered, brushing his hands off like she were filth. "You're lucky Alpha Damien showed mercy. If it were up to me, you'd be rotting 6 feet under." The second warrior smirked, crossing his arms. "Funny, you wanted to be Luna. Now you're just a rogue with nothing but your lies and your bitterness." Zara's nails dug into the soil as she pushed herself up, her hair wild, her face streaked with dirt and fury. The guards turned without another word, stepping back into pack territory. The gate slammed behind them with finality. She was alone. The wind howled through the trees, but inside Zara burned a fire hotter than ever before. The shame, the pain, the betrayal, it twisted in her gut like a blade. They humiliated me. He banished me. For her? She thought of Ella, smiling, radiant, accepted by all. The girl who had stolen Damien's attention, who had Lucian's protection, who had destroyed everything Zara worked for. Her lips curled into a snarl. "I'll make her pay," she whispered into the night. "I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what I have to become. I'll tear that light from her eyes. And I'll make her bleed for what she's taken from me." Her aura flared, dark and trembling with vengeance. Zara wasn't gone like they thought. She was reborn for more evil plans. And Ella was now her obsession, her target, and her new purpose. And no border would keep her rage contained. They lay in the stillness of the night, tangled in each other's warmth, their breath slowing in sync. Damien held her tightly, his arms wrapped around her like a shield, his chest rising and falling beneath her cheek. Ella rested against him, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the contours of his skin, her soul humming with contentment. She could feel the bond pulsing between them, deep, unbreakable, alive with love. She was his, and he was hers. Damien's hand slid gently through her hair, his voice a hushed whisper against the quiet of the forest. "You're mine now, Ella, in this life and the next." She smiled, eyes closed, heart racing. "And you're mine, Damien, my Alpha, my heart." He let out a soft chuckle, the sound vibrating in his chest. "My queen," he said, kissing her forehead tenderly. "No one will touch you again. No one will even try. I swear it." Ella's breath caught in her throat, her heart overflowing. For the first time in so long, she felt safe. She felt seen. She felt not as a possession, but as a partner, a soulmate. Wrapped in his arms beneath the silver moon, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, happiness was hers to keep. But far beyond the safety of their clearing, shadows stirred. Lila's rage festered like poison. Her hatred had not cooled, it had only sharpened. The bond between Damien and Ella was a light she could not bear. And in the cold corners of the world, she gathered her strength. She would not forgive. She would not forget. War loomed on the horizon, and love, new, fierce, and untested, was about to face its greatest trial. Zara's arrival at the Fortress of Shadows. The night was heavy with foreboding, cloaked in thick, rolling clouds that smothered the stars. A cold wind howled through the desolate lands surrounding the Blood Moon Pack's stronghold, whispering omens of ruin. Shadows crept along the jagged stones, and the air pulsed with the venomous hum of dark magic. Zara stumbled through the iron gates, her figure ragged and trembling. Her body bore the marks of exile, bruised, torn, discarded, but her eyes burned with unrelenting fury, glowing like coals lit by vengeance. She had lost everything, her home, her title, her name, and all of it was because of her. "Ella," the guards growled, their claws extending as they moved in for the kill, teeth bared. But before they could strike, Zara collapsed to her knees, blood dripping from her lips, her voice raw. "I bring a message for your queen." The guards exchanged wary glances before seizing her by the arms and dragging her inside. The throne room loomed like a cavern of nightmares, lit only by flickering crimson flames. At its center, Lila reclined on her throne of obsidian and bone, swathed in silken shadows. A blood-red orb pulsed in her hands, radiating waves of power. Her golden eyes glowed with cruel amusement. At her feet knelt Kaden, the once proud warrior now reduced to a hollow shell. His gaze was vacant, his soul bound in chains only he could feel. Ensnared by her spell, he existed only as her slave. Lila's smirk deepened as she looked upon the intruder. Well, look what the wind dragged in. A filthy little traitor from Shadow Fang, crawling like a worm. Zara raised her head, her hatred unmasked. "They cast me out because of her. Ella, that silver-haired witch." "That she's twisted," Damien turned him against his own. She spat Ella's name like a curse, eyes wild with venom. "But I know her. I know them, their defenses, their blind spots. Strike now and you can destroy them all." Lila's interest flickered, her fingers stilling on the orb. "Damien's little Luna," she murmured, her smile darkening. "So she's grown fangs." Zara leaned forward, desperation and malice entwined in her voice. "She's strong, yes, but untested. The pack trusts her. But if you bring war now, she'll crumble, and I will help you tear her apart." Lila rose from her throne, the air shifting as power crackled around her like a gathering storm. "Delicious," she whispered. "I've waited long enough." A wicked grin split her face as her gaze swept across the room. "Prepare the army. We march on Shadow Fang, and when the smoke clears, I'll have Ella's broken body at my feet." Kaden's body shuddered, a flicker of pain surfacing in his eyes. His voice was little more than a breath. "Lila, please, don't do this." She turned to him, mockery and poison in her smile. "Oh, my love," she purred, stroking his cheek with cold fingers. "You'll stand with me. You belong to me now." Kaden's soul screamed, but his body obeyed. The chains of her magic held tight. Lila turned back to Zara, eyes gleaming with dark glee. "You'll lead my vanguard, prove your loyalty, and you'll have your revenge." Zara's pulse quickened, but her heart pounding with hatred. "I'll see her bleed. I'll make her regret ever crossing me." Lila laughed, the sound echoing like a curse through the halls of the fortress. Good, she whispered, her voice soaked in malice. Then let the darkness rise, and let the fire consume them all. The grand hall of the Shadowfang pack house pulsed with life. Flickering torches cast golden light across ancient stone walls, and the air thrummed with a mix of reverence and excitement. Warriors stood in formation, their eyes sharp. Elders watched in silence, their expressions unreadable but intrigued. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Curiosity, wonder, and whispered tales of the silver-haired she-wolf who had stolen their alpha's heart. Ella stood at the threshold, her pulse pounding in her ears. Draped in a flowing gown the color of moonlight, she looked ethereal, yet undeniably powerful. Her silver hair spilled like liquid starlight over her shoulders, and her eyes glowed with quiet fire. The scars of her past had not vanished, but they had become armor. She was no longer the outcast, the broken, the forgotten. She had risen from ashes, from chains, from exile, and tonight she would rise as Luna. Damien appeared beside her, tall and imposing, his aura blazing with dominance and pride. His golden eyes softened as they found hers. He reached for her hand, his touch grounding, his bond pulsing with unshakable love. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice low, meant only for her. Ella's nerves stilled, her chin lifted. "With you, always." Together, they stepped into the hall. Silence descended like a wave. All eyes turned, breaths held. As the couple approached the center, their auras intertwined, power and love woven between them like a thread of flame. Damien turned to face the pack, his voice clear and commanding. "My pack, my family, tonight I stand before you not only as your alpha, but as a mate." His gaze fell on Ella, filled with unguarded love. "This is Ella. She is my heart, my equal, my queen." Gasps echoed. A low murmur rose, shock, then awe. Some eyes widened in disbelief, others brimmed with wonder. "She is no ordinary wolf," Damien continued, his tone resolute. "She has endured more than many of you can imagine, but she stands here, not as a victim, but as a warrior, as your Luna." Ella stepped forward, her aura igniting like wildfire, pulsing across the hall with raw, untamed strength. She raised her chin, her voice unwavering. "I came here a stranger, a rogue, but I found something worth fighting for." Her eyes swept over the crowd, gleaming silver under the light. "I vow to protect this pack, to lead beside your alpha, to defend you with everything I am. I may have been broken, but I rebuilt myself from the shards." Her voice deepened, her power flaring like a rising storm. "I am the White Wolf, and I am no longer hiding." The hall exploded. Cheers roared. Warriors howled in approval, their fists raised in salute. The elders nodded slowly, some with smiles of respect. The pack had heard her, felt her. They did not see a rogue. They saw a Luna, a force, a queen reborn. Damien stepped forward, his gaze locked on hers. Emotion surged in his eyes, love, pride, awe. "My queen," he said, voice rough, full of reverence. "My mate, my everything." He took her face in his hands and kissed her. The hall shook with howls as their bond surged. Power blazed around them, a radiant fusion of gold and silver. The mate bond snapped into place, sealing them together, spirit to spirit, soul to soul. Ella melted into him, heart thundering, spirit alight. She belonged. She was loved. She was home. The howls rose higher, echoing through the mountains. Tonight, they did not just welcome a Luna. They welcomed a legend. Ella, the White Wolf, had risen. Days melted into weeks, and with each sunrise, Ella grew stronger. Her aura crackled like wildfire, untamed, radiant, impossible to ignore. She trained with unrelenting focus, her body sharpening into a weapon, her spirit rising like a storm. In the arena, she became a legend in motion. She faced warriors twice her size and met them head-on, her silver eyes locked, unflinching. Her movements were poetry laced with danger, swift, precise, deadly. She commanded the wind, felt the pulse of the earth beneath her feet, and bent the world's breath to her will. No longer the girl who'd once been enslaved, Ella had become a tempest, a queen forged in fire and fury, the White Wolf. She didn't just fight, she conquered, and the pack watched with reverent awe. No longer did they see her as merely Damien's mate. She had carved her place with sweat, strength, and soul. She had earned their loyalty, not by name, but by battle, by blood, by heart. Warriors bowed as she passed. Elders came to her for counsel. Children whispered her name like it was magic. Ella stood taller beneath their gaze, her chest full, her heart blazing. "I belong. I am trusted. I am their Luna, their queen." from the shadows of the training grounds. Damien watched her with unguarded pride. She moved like fire, dangerous, beautiful, unstoppable. His heart ached with love, admiration, and a fierce need to protect what was already unstoppable. She was more than his mate. She was his equal, his strength, his future. "You're incredible," he murmured, voice husky, stepping into her space as she wiped sweat from her brow. His golden eyes burned. "My queen." Ella's breath caught, her smile soft and fierce. She looked up at him, her silver gaze glowing. "With you beside me, I can conquer anything." Damien's jaw tightened with emotion, his aura flaring as he pulled her close. "And together," he whispered, brushing his lips against hers, "we'll conquer everything." The training arena was packed. Pack members stood around the fighting ring, murmuring to each other, their eyes fixed on the two wolves inside. Some were excited, others were nervous. Most didn't believe Ella would last even a minute. She stood alone, facing Thorn, the pack's strongest warrior. He was built like a mountain, muscles hard as stone, eyes sharp like knives. He was fast, deadly, and didn't go easy on anyone. Not even the Luna. Ella's hands shook slightly, but her gaze stayed locked on him. She wore only her training clothes, thin, torn in places from past battles. Her body ached from earlier sessions, but she refused to back down. Damien watched from the sidelines, silent. He believed in her. But even he looked tense. Thorn smirked. "This is a waste of time. You don't belong here." Ella lifted her chin. "We'll see." The horn blew. The fight began. Thorn moved first, fast as lightning. His fist slammed into her stomach, if knocking the breath from her lungs. She stumbled back, gasping, but didn't fall. She dodged his next punch, then hit him with a sharp elbow to the ribs. He grunted but barely flinched. "Not bad," he growled, and then he came at her harder. His punches rained down like hammers. One hit her cheek, splitting the skin. Another crashed into her ribs and something cracked. Pain exploded through her side. She dropped to one knee, coughing, her vision blurring. "You're weak," Thorn said, standing over her. "You don't deserve the Alpha." Ella spat blood onto the ground. Her body screamed in agony, but her heart burned hotter. She rose again, slowly, painfully, and swung at him. He caught her wrist, twisted it hard, and threw her to the ground. She hit with a loud thud, air rushing from her lungs. She couldn't move. Every muscle throbbed. Her bones felt like they might shatter. Her ears rang. Her wolf inside her whimpered, afraid. Thorn knelt beside her, gripping her throat with one large hand. His weight pinned her to the dirt. "Stay down, Luna," he snarled. "Know your place." That's when she heard it. A growl, not from Thorn, but from within. It started deep in her chest, rising with her fury, her pain, her fear, her will to survive. Her spirit, battered but not broken, pushed back. And then everything snapped. A white-hot light burst from her skin, throwing Thorn back like a rag doll. The ground shook. A gust of wind blasted through the arena. Pack members gasped and shielded their faces. Ella's body shifted, bones cracking, reshaping, stretching. Silver light wrapped around her like fire. Her scream turned into a howl. When the light faded, silence followed. She stood in the center of the ring, not as a girl, not as a beaten Luna, but as a wolf of legend. Her fur was pure white, glowing under the sun. Her eyes shone silver, fierce and wild. Power rolled off her in waves. Her size was massive, larger than any wolf they'd seen. She looked like a goddess of the old stories, untouchable and deadly. The crowd stared in shock. Some fell to their knees. Thorn lay on the ground, staring up at her in fear. His mouth hung open. The white wolf. Ella snarled, stepping forward. He flinched and rolled away, scrambling out of the ring. A silence hung in the air until a single howl echoed through the arena. Then another, and another. The pack howled in honor. Their Luna had awakened. The white wolf had risen. As the days turned into weeks, Ella changed. She trained every morning before the sun rose and kept going long after the moon appeared. Her body grew stronger, her muscles sharper, her moves quicker. Every bruise, every cut made her tougher. Her spirit no longer trembled. It roared. She fought in the arena with warriors twice her size, never backing down. Her silver eyes burned with focus. Her steps were fast and sharp, graceful like a dancer, deadly like a hunter. Wind whipped around her when she moved. The ground shook beneath her power. Ella was no longer the girl who'd been caged, no longer the outsider. She was a storm, a warrior, the white wolf. The pack saw it too. They gathered in silence as she fought. They watched her rise again and again, even when blood dripped from her lip or her arm hung limp from a blow. They saw the fire in her eyes, the way she stood tall no matter the pain, and they respected her for it. Some bowed their heads when she passed. Others stepped aside with quiet admiration. Elders began asking for her thoughts. Children ran to her with wide eyes, calling her Luna with pride. In their eyes, she was more than the Alpha's mate. She was their shield, their strength, their queen. Ella felt it in her heart. She felt their belief, wrapping around her like warmth. I belong, she thought. I am one of them now. Damien stood beside her, always watching, and every time she won a fight or comforted a crying child, his chest swelled with pride. "You're incredible," he said one night, brushing dirt from her cheek with his thumb. "My queen." Ella smiled, her heart beating wild. "With you beside me," she whispered, "I can face anything." Damien's eyes darkened with love, and he pulled her close. "And together," he said, his voice low and full of promise, "we'll face it all." Zara stood in the corner of her dark chamber, eyes narrowed as one of her spies knelt before her, breathing hard, dust clinging to his cloak from the long journey. "What did you see?" she asked coldly, her voice like ice. The spy kept his head bowed. "It's done. The mate ceremony. Damien has claimed her. The entire pack witnessed it. They accepted her as Luna." Zara's jaw clenched. Her fists curled tightly at her sides. "And the wolf? What of the white wolf?" The spy hesitated for a heartbeat. She awakened. During a fight in the arena, she transformed. It was her, silver eyes, glowing white fur, the ancient power. It's her. Zara turned slowly, her body trembling, not with fear but pure, blistering rage. Her lips twisted into a snarl. She was nothing, she hissed. A broken slave, a filthy rogue, and now they cheer for her like she's some kind of goddess? The spy dared not speak. Zara spun on her heel and stormed out of the room, her eyes burning with hatred. She marched through the black stone corridors of Lila's fortress, ignoring the curious glances of passing warriors. Her rage fueled every step. She didn't bother knocking when she entered Lila's chambers. Lila stood near the balcony, draped in a robe of deep crimson, her long black hair flowing behind her. Two servants stood nearby, quietly arranging her gowns and accessories. She looked over her shoulder, bored. "This better be good, Zara." Zara didn't bow. "It's Ella. She's officially Luna now." Damien held the mate ceremony. The pack welcomed her with open arms. Lila's expression twisted. Zara saw the crack form in her usual calm. Zara pressed on, and she transformed into the white wolf. The legend is real. She's it. For a long moment there was silence. Lila's eyes darkened. Her breath hitched once. And then the room exploded. With a scream of fury, Lila swept her arm across the vanity, sending bottles of perfume and glass trinkets crashing to the floor. One of the servants gasped and stepped back. "She dares!" Lila roared, her voice filled with fury. "That wretched girl dares take my throne? My prophecy!" She spun, her power sparking like black lightning. Her eyes glowed with madness. "Get out," she snarled at the servant. The girl hesitated. "I said." Lila's hand shot out, and in a flash of shadowy magic the maid crumpled to the floor. Dead. A lifeless, broken heap. The room went silent again. Zara didn't flinch. If anything, the sight only hardened her hatred further. She's rising fast. The pack adores her. If we wait much longer, it'll be too late. Lila's chest heaved as she calmed herself, her lips curling into a bitter smile. "Then we won't wait." She walked slowly toward Zara, her voice low and sharp like a blade. "She thinks becoming Luna makes her untouchable. She thinks that wolf will protect her." Her smile widened, eyes gleaming with cruelty. "Let's remind her what it means to be hunted." Zara bowed her head slightly, a grin tugging at her lips. "Just say the word." Lila turned toward the balcony, staring out into the cold night sky. "Gather the shadows," she whispered. "We're going to burn their little kingdom to the ground." Lila's smile twisted cruelly, her power pulsing like a storm. "Let them cheer for her." "Let them place her on a pedestal," she said, voice low and sharp. "The higher she rises, the sweeter her fall will be." Zara's eyes narrowed, her hatred smoldering. "And I'll be there when she crumbles. I want to see her bleed." Dark energy crackled around Lila, shadows curling at her feet like snakes. "Oh, she'll break," she whispered. "And when she does, Damien will come crawling to me on his knees, begging for her life." Her voice dropped to a deadly hiss as her laughter filled the chamber, cold as ice. I'll burn his precious pack to ash, and he'll watch everything he loves turn to dust. But first, I need to prepare a gift for them, for Ella." Lila stood before the ancient cauldron, her hands raised, her eyes glowing with dark magic. Black mist curled around her feet, and the air was thick with the stench of rot and power. The chamber pulsed with whispers, as if the darkness itself was alive. She chanted in a low, harsh voice. Each word carried weight, twisting the shadows tighter around her like a cloak. Zara stood a few feet away, her hands clenched at her sides, eyes wide with both fear and anticipation. "Will it work?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Will this finally destroy Ella?" Lila didn't look away from the swirling cauldron, her lips curled into a cruel smile. "It will do more than destroy her," she said softly. "It will poison everything she loves." The shadows around the cauldron thickened, rising like smoke. Lila's power surged, dark and violent. "They'll never see it coming," Zara said, her voice trembling with barely contained glee. "No," Lila agreed, her tone sharp and cold. "They're drunk on peace, blinded by love and loyalty. That makes them weak, vulnerable." She held up a vial filled with thick, crimson liquid, blood magic. Without hesitation, she hurled it into the cauldron. It hissed on contact, and the shadows around it screamed like tortured souls. "This spell will twist their minds," Lila said, her voice like ice. "It will turn friend against friend, mate against mate. Their trust will crumble, their unity will rot." Zara's breath caught. "And Ella?" Lila's smile vanished. Her eyes burned with hatred. "She will break. First her hope will die, then her bond with Damien, and once she's alone and broken." Her voice dropped into a hiss. "I will rip her apart with my own hands." She laughed, a sound sharp enough to cut stone. The cauldron bubbled violently. The room darkened as the spell took form. The shadows writhed like serpents, eager to be unleashed. The curse was ready. And soon, the war would begin from within. The room still reeked of dark magic. The shadows clung to the stone walls like wet ash, pulsing with the energy of the curse Lila had just birthed. The cauldron had gone still, its contents sealed within a small black pouch, soft as velvet, but soaked in malice. Zara stepped forward, careful not to breathe too deeply. The air felt sharp now, like it could cut her lungs. Lila held out the pouch, her fingers glowing faintly with residual power. "Give this to your spies," she said, her voice cool and commanding. "They know what to do." Zara nodded, her eyes fixed on the pouch. It looked harmless, but she could feel it, something vile and crawling twisted inside it. She took it with both hands, swallowing back the unease tightening her throat. Outside, beneath the blood moon's glow, 3 cloaked figures waited in silence near the edge of the fortress. They knelt as Zara approached, their heads bowed low. They were shadows themselves, silent, invisible, loyal only to her. "It's time," she said, handing them the pouch. "Take this to the edge of Damien's territory. Go to the northern border, where the stones mark the edge of their runes." One of the spies looked up, his eyes a dull gold. "What do you want done with it?" "Bury it," Zara said, her voice hard. "Deep beneath the earth, where the pack's magic won't notice it until it's too late. The curse will spread from the ground up, infecting their roots." Another spy nodded slowly. "And if someone sees us?" Zara's eyes narrowed. "No one can. If you're caught, you're dead. And if you fail, don't come back." The spies bowed again and vanished into the night like smoke, carrying death wrapped in silk. Zara turned back toward the fortress, the wind cold on her skin, her lips curled with dark satisfaction. "Let them dance and sing beneath their moon," she whispered. "Soon, their joy will rot into screams." Behind her, thunder rumbled in the distance. The curse was on its way, and the countdown to their downfall had begun. The spies in the dark. The forest near the northern border of Damien's pack was thick with fog, the trees silent, the wind still. Moonlight filtered faintly through the branches, casting silver veins over the dirt path. Nothing stirred, no birds, no wolves, not even the usual patrol. It was the perfect night for shadows to slip unseen. 3 figures moved silently between the trees, dressed in black, their scents masked with ashroot oil and wild mint to confuse the wolves' senses. Each step was precise, deliberate. The one in front clutched the black velvet pouch tightly to his chest, as though it might bite him. They reached the edge of the territory where the border stones stood, tall and weathered. Ancient runes glowed faintly across them, a protective ward that had kept the pack safe for generations. The leader of the spies raised a hand. Here, he knelt and pulled a small bone dagger from his belt, enchanted to cut through even spell-woven earth. With practiced skill, he began to carve into the ground just beyond the edge of the protective rune's reach. The earth resisted at first, as if knowing what they meant to do. The wind picked up, the trees groaned, but the dagger dug deeper, slicing through roots and stone. "Hurry," whispered one of the others, glancing over his shoulder. "We don't belong here." The leader said nothing. With a final grunt, he opened a deep hole, just wide enough. He pulled the pouch from beneath his cloak. The moment it touched the open air, the ground seemed to hiss. The shadows nearby grew thicker. A pulse of dark energy spread from the pouch, like a heartbeat, slow and menacing. He dropped it in. The moment it hit the earth, the hole swallowed it whole. The ground shuddered. A faint pulse rippled outward through the soil, like a sickness crawling beneath the surface. "It's done," the leader whispered. He pressed his palm to the dirt, sealing it with a final word in the dark tongue Lila had taught them. The magic was now buried, hidden beneath sacred land. Rot would come slowly, unseen. It would twist the roots, poison the hearts, shatter the bond between wolves. The spies melted back into the woods, leaving no trace. Not a footprint, not a sound. Behind them, the ground pulsed once more. The curse had taken hold, and no one knew it had begun. The morning sun broke gently over Shadowfang Pack's land, casting golden rays through the trees. Birds sang, warriors trained in the clearing, and children laughed as they chased each other through the grass. On the surface, everything seemed perfect. But beneath the peace, something had begun to shift. Ella stood at the training grounds, her silver eyes focused as she sparred with two younger warriors. Her movements were sharp, graceful, until a sudden, stabbing pain shot through her head. She stumbled, the world blurring for a moment. "Luna!" one of the warriors gasped, rushing to her side. Ella waved them off, blinking as the pain faded just as quickly as it had come. "I'm fine," she murmured, though her heart was pounding. Something felt wrong. Later that day, a patrol returned with grim faces. 2 deer found dead in the forest, the lead warrior reported to Damien. No wounds, no signs of struggle. But their eyes, they were black, like something drained the life right out of them. Damien frowned, unease settling over him. And the land? Damp, sickly. The trees around them were wilted, even the birds were silent. That night, the pack house felt colder. The fire didn't warm like it used to. The walls creaked. The shadows in the corners seemed to stretch longer than they should. Ella tried to meditate, to reach out to the spirit of her wolf, but something pressed against her, an invisible fog between her soul and the bond she had once felt so clearly. Her connection to nature, to the wind, to the moon, dulled. "Damien," she whispered, curled beside him in bed. "Something's coming. I feel it." He pulled her close, kissing her forehead, trying to steady his own rising fear. "We'll face it, whatever it is." But even Damien couldn't deny the truth. The land was changing. The bond between wolves had begun to fray. Dreams were darker, tempers shorter, trust, once iron-strong, began to splinter. It started small. 2 warriors, brothers, clashed during training. A simple misstep, a wrongly timed block, and fists flew with unrestrained fury. Blood stained the ground before others pulled them apart. When questioned, neither could explain the sudden rage. "I just saw red," one muttered, hands trembling, "like something snapped in me." Soon, more began to change. A healer forgot her herbs. An elder lashed out at a pup. A scout claimed he saw ghosts in the trees, shadowy figures whispering his name. The peaceful rhythm of Shadowfang was fraying at the edges. Ella stood at the heart of it all, her heart heavy. Her dreams were filled with fire and ash, her wolf pacing restlessly inside her. The land felt unnatural. The forest, once alive with spirit, had gone quiet. Even her bond with Damien began to flicker. One morning, she found him standing at the balcony, staring out toward the northern border with clenched fists and a clenched jaw. "Damien?" she called softly. He didn't turn. "Something's watching us." She stepped beside him, placing a hand on his arm. His skin was hot, burning with tension. "We'll figure this out." But Damien said nothing. His golden eyes were hard, distant. And then it happened. A patrol was ambushed near the border, not by outsiders, but by their own. 2 pack members turned on their own brothers in the night, claiming they were traitors. They screamed of lies, betrayal, and enemies in the shadows. It took 4 warriors to subdue them. When questioned, they wept, broken and confused. "I heard them," one whispered. "Voices in the trees. They told me he would kill us all. I had to stop him. I had to." Ella stood silently as the warriors were dragged away, her stomach twisted in dread. Zara's spies had done their job. The curse had been planted. The next day, Ella stood at the edge of the northern forest, the same place where the patrol had been attacked. The wind carried no birdsong, no rustle of prey, only stillness and a creeping cold that crawled beneath her skin. Her wolf paced in circles inside her, agitated and alert. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. She knelt beside a patch of soil where the attack occurred. The earth was blackened, tainted. She pressed her fingers to it. A sharp sting lanced up her arm. A whisper slid through her mind. "You don't belong here, Luna." Ella recoiled, stumbling back. Her breath came in short gasps, heart pounding. She wasn't imagining it. Something was buried here, and it was alive. That night, the pack house trembled with unrest. The young began having nightmares, waking up screaming, clawing at their sheets, crying about shadows dragging them away. An elder collapsed during a ritual, blood seeping from his nose, eyes wide with horror. "It's in the roots," he rasped before losing consciousness. "The land bleeds." Fights became daily, loyalty wavered, mistrust grew. Damien's voice thundered through war meetings, but even his presence couldn't stop the rising unease. His golden eyes dulled, his aura flickered, he barely slept. His power was strong, but something gnawed at him from within. He hid it from the others, but not from Ella. She touched his chest one night, feeling his heartbeat stutter beneath her palm. "You're not yourself," she whispered. "I'm fine," he said, jaw tight. "No, you're not." He turned his face from her. "Something's clawing at me, like a darkness I can't push out, and I don't know if it's mine." Ella pulled him close, their bond struggling to hold steady. "Then I'll find it. I'll tear it out, Damien. Whatever it is, I'll destroy it." The next morning, she walked into the forest alone. Her white cloak fluttered in the wind as she followed the sickness in the earth like a trail. Her silver eyes burned with focus. Her spirit buzzed with warning. Something called to her, something vile and buried deep. And then she saw it, a twisted patch of ground. The trees around it leaned away, bark blackened, leaves gray. The earth was cracked, bleeding dark mist. Her wolf lunged inside her chest, claws out. Ella fell to her knees and began to dig. The soil burned her hands, but she didn't stop. And then her fingers hit it, a small, cursed object wrapped in black cloth, humming with dark magic. The moment she touched it, a scream echoed in her mind, high and furious. Lila, this was her doing. Ella gasped, sweat pouring down her face as she staggered back, clutching the cursed object in her hands. "I found you," she whispered. "Now I end you." But even as she spoke, the shadows began to rise. And the fight was only just beginning. Ella cradled the cursed object in her hands as if it might bite her. The dark mist still clung to it, like ash, pulsing faintly with sinister energy. She kept it wrapped tightly in cloth as she returned to the pack house, her pace urgent and sure. Damien met her halfway down the corridor, his golden eyes filled with concern. "What did you find?" he asked, voice low and tense. She looked up at him, her silver eyes stormy. "It was buried at the northern border. Something dark. I don't know what it is, but it's powerful." "Wrong." Damien didn't hesitate. "We're taking it to Mira." The herbalist's hut sat at the edge of the territory, cloaked in herbs, moss, and the quiet rustle of charms. Mira, the oldest living herbalist in the pack, was already waiting for them, as if she had known they would come. Ella unwrapped the cloth carefully, revealing the cursed object. At once, the room darkened. The fire in the hearth flickered violently, and Mira's breath caught. She didn't touch it, she only stared, eyes narrowing. "Where did you find this?" Mira whispered, voice barely audible. "At the border," Ella replied. "It was buried, like it was meant to stay hidden." Mira circled the object once, muttering ancient words under her breath. When she spoke again, her voice was grave. "This is blood-hexed shadow magic, and very old. It twists nature, it breaks spirit, it doesn't just curse a pack, it infects it." Damien's face tightened. "Can you tell who made it?" Mira hesitated. Then she placed her wrinkled hands over the object and closed her eyes. Power stirred in the air. Moments passed. When her eyes opened again, they were glowing faintly green. Her voice was not just hers, it carried something ancient and knowing. "Her name is Lila." Silence fell like a blade. Ella's breath caught. Damien's fists clenched. Lila, Ella whispered, her voice laced with both shock and disgust. Of course it was her. Damien turned to Mira. Are you sure? She tied her essence into it. I felt her hatred, her jealousy. It's her magic, her soul. Mira nodded slowly, grimly. She meant to rot your pack from the inside. Ella stared at the cursed item, her heart pounding. She's not just trying to hurt us, she's trying to destroy everything. Damien's jaw tightened, his aura bristling with fury. And she thinks hiding behind spells and shadows will save her? They stood in silence for a long moment, the curse pulsing between them like a second heartbeat. Then Damien looked to Ella, his eyes dark and steady. She's declared war. Ella's voice was soft, but her power simmered beneath. Then let her come. Preparing for the unknown, the cursed ob now sat inside a sealed box, locked away in Mira's protection, warded with layers of runes, salt, and moon-blessed herbs. But even so, its energy could still be felt, like a heartbeat of hate thudding beneath the floorboards. Ella stood at the center of the pack's meeting hall, her silver hair catching the torchlight as warriors, elders, and scouts gathered around. Her aura was calm, but her eyes burned. Damien stood beside her, his expression hard, his posture sharp with fury held in check. This isn't just a trick, Ella said, her voice clear. It's a declaration. Someone buried dark magic at our border, meant to poison our land, break our minds, and turn us against each other. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Who would do this? Someone asked, fear lacing their voice. Damien answered coldly, Lila. Growls broke out at once, fists clenched, eyes narrowed. Every warrior knew the name. Every elder remembered the stories. And those who didn't had seen enough darkness to understand. She cursed us? Asked one of the younger wolves, wide-eyed. But why? Ella met the girl's gaze. Because she hates me, because she wants to hurt what I love. That means all of you. Murmurs rose. Anger simmered. We won't let her win, Damien growled, not again. From this moment on, patrols double. No one travels alone, and no one lets their emotions get the better of them. This curse was meant to divide us. Don't let it. Ella stepped forward. We fight this. Together. No fear. No hesitation. The crowd erupted in agreement. Warriors howling, elders nodding, pack unity blazing brighter than the darkness pressing at their borders. Far beyond the forest, the fortress of shadows. A sharp knock echoed through the dark stone hall. Lila lounged on a silk-draped chaise, sipping dark wine. Zara stood near the window, arms folded, lips tight. The door creaked open. One of the spies entered, head bowed low. My queen, they found it. Lila's eyes sharpened. What? The curse, the white wolf discovered it. And she took it straight to their herbalist. They know. The wineglass shattered in Lila's grip. She stood slowly, dangerously quiet. Her aura pulsed. Zara turned, face paling slightly. What now? Lila's voice was like venom. So the little bitch sniffed it out. Her shadows stirred, coiling and writhing behind her. She moved to the window, looking out at the blood-red moon. Then let her know what real darkness looks like. She turned to the spy, her voice a command. Send a message to Ella. Let her read it in blood. In the depths of her dark chamber, Lila stood over her cauldron once again, her fingers coated in black ash, her eyes glowing with fury. The failure of the first curse still burned in her veins. The white wolf had sniffed it out. How? No matter. This time, there would be no mistake. She poured blood from a silver chalice into the swirling potion. It hissed and screamed as it touched the surface. This one won't touch her soul, Lila whispered to herself. No, this one will rot her from the inside out. Zara stood to the side, watching with quiet intensity. When Lila turned toward her, vial in hand, Zara stepped forward without hesitation. Lila's voice was cold and sharp. Slip this into her food, and place a few drops beneath her pillow. It must get into her system, into her mind. It's a slow kill, subtle. The more she fights it, the faster it spreads. Zara accepted the vial like it was a sacred blade. She'll suffer, Lila said, her smile thin and cruel, and no one will know why until it's far too late. The poison's path. The moonlight barely reached the dense woods near the southern ridge, where 3 cloaked figures waited in silence. The air was still, thick with secrecy. A faint rustle of leaves signaled the arrival of a 4th shadow, a figure with fiery red hair peeking out from beneath her hood. It was Cece, the Gamma's daughter. Proud, sharp, and still loyal to Zara even after her exile. One of the spies stepped forward and pressed the small glass vial into Cece's gloved palm. Zara said this is the final piece, the spy whispered. You know what to do. Cece nodded once, hiding the vial beneath the folds of her cloak. It will be done, she said coldly, before slipping away into the trees. Later that night, inside the pack house, the servant halls were quiet, only the soft shuffling of feet and the occasional whisper disturbing the stillness. Cece moved like a shadow, gliding past guards and workers until she reached a small servant's room near the east wing. She knocked once before pushing the door open. Inside, Ella's personal maid, Mira, stood abruptly, startled. Her brown eyes widened when she saw Cece step in. Miss Cece, it's late. Sit, Cece commanded, her tone sharp. Mira obeyed, heart pounding. Cece reached into her cloak and placed the vial on the table between them. It shimmered faintly under the lantern light, a deep violet liquid swirling inside. What is that? Mira whispered, fear tightening her voice. Cece leaned in, her smile cold and cruel. A favor for a friend. You'll place a few drops of this under Luna Ella's pillow and mix the rest into her food. Nothing more. Mira's face paled. I can't. If anyone finds out. Cece's smile disappeared, her voice dropping like a blade. You can, and you will, unless you want your brother to pay the price. Mira froze. You forget, Mira, Cece went on smoothly. He scrubs floors in my family's house. One word from me and he'll disappear. Accidents happen, don't they? Tears welled in Mira's eyes, her hands trembling. Don't make me repeat myself, Cece said, pushing the vial toward her. Do it, or bury your brother. Silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Finally, Mira nodded, slow, broken. I'll do it. Cece straightened, satisfied. Good girl. And remember, if you tell anyone, it won't just be your brother who vanishes. With that, Cece turned and vanished into the hallway, leaving Mira behind, alone in her room, staring at the vial with shaking hands and a soul full of guilt. Inside Shadow Fang Pack, the hidden betrayer. 3 days later, the moon hung low over the quiet pack house, bathing the hallways in silver light. A young woman moved silently through the kitchen. No one noticed her. She was always quiet, always helpful. The cooks barely gave her a second glance as she passed by with Ella's tray of food. She had a kind smile, soft eyes, but beneath her sleeve she carried a secret. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out the tiny vial. One drop went into the stew, another into the tea. She mixed it gently, hands steady, heart quiet. Not even her scent changed. Later that night, when the tray was delivered to Ella's room, the same woman returned under the cover of darkness. She slipped inside silently while Ella bathed. She moved quickly, expertly. A few drops of the poison were sprinkled beneath the Luna's pillow, just enough for the cursed vapor to begin seeping into her dreams, weakening her mind night by night. By the time she was gone, the room looked untouched, peaceful, safe, but the darkness had already begun to root itself in Ella's world. Meanwhile, Ella lay down that night without a worry, her head resting on the pillow with a sigh. Damien kissed her temple and whispered goodnight before heading to a late meeting with his beta. As Ella closed her eyes, a strange heaviness filled her chest. Nothing alarming, just tiredness. She drifted off. But in her dreams, the shadows began to whisper. At first, it was subtle. Ella stood at the training ground sparring with 2 warriors. Her movements were sharp, her strikes clean. But suddenly, her balance faltered. A misstep, a hesitation, the blade in her hand clanged against the ground. Damien was at her side in seconds. Ella? I'm fine, she said, waving him off with a weak smile. Just dizzy. But she wasn't. Something felt off. The ground felt too soft, the wind too loud. The colors around her were too sharp, almost like the world had turned sideways. That night, the whispers began. Not voices, not exactly, but a slithering sound in her mind, like something brushing against the edges of her thoughts. You don't belong here. She sat up in bed, breathing heavily, her silver hair damp with sweat. Who said that? The room was silent, empty, but beneath her pillow, the cursed magic pulsed faintly, unseen and deadly. Day 3. Ella tried to laugh it off during breakfast, but her appetite was gone. The food felt strange in her mouth, bitter, almost metallic. She pushed it aside. Damien noticed. Still not feeling well? I'm just tired, she said, forcing a smile. That's all. But as she left the dining hall, her vision blurred. The walls narrowed, the whispers returned. They don't trust you. She spun around, looking for someone, anyone, but there was no one nearby. Day 5. The doubt began to settle into her bones. She stood in front of a mirror, her silver eyes bloodshot, her skin pale. Her reflection seemed to move when she didn't. The voice was stronger now, seeping into her mind like poison. They only respect you because of him. You're nothing without Damien. No, she whispered. No, that's not true. But the voice laughed, low, cruel, familiar. You're still the broken slave girl. You always will be. That night. Ella stumbled into the hallway, clutching the wall for balance. Her power flickered, unstable, sparking wildly beneath her skin. She barely made it to the edge of the courtyard before collapsing to her knees. Something's wrong, she whispered to the night air. Something's inside me. The moon watched from above, silent. And somewhere, deep in the earth, where that cursed magic had once been buried, shadows twisted with delight, the quiet before the fall. Damien stood by the doorway, his arms crossed, watching Ella as she adjusted the straps on her training gear. Her movements were slower, less sure, and a sheen of sweat clung to her brow, though the morning air was still cool. You're pale again, he said, stepping forward. Ella, something's wrong. You haven't been yourself lately. Ella looked up quickly, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'm fine, Damien. Just a little tired. You worry too much. He frowned, searching her face. You've skipped meals. You're shaking on my... I hear you walking the halls at night. Ella touched his arm gently. I promise. I'm okay. I don't want you worrying when you're needed elsewhere. Damien hesitated, but her touch, her voice, reassured him just enough. With a final kiss to her forehead, he nodded. I'll only be gone 3 days. If you feel worse, tell Mira or one of the healers. I will, she lied. And with that, Damien mounted his horse and rode toward the neighboring allied pack, unaware that he was leaving his mate in a slow-brewing storm. Day 1. Mira, quiet and pale-faced, entered Ella's chamber with the evening tray, soup, bread, and tea. Her fingers trembled as she slipped a single drop of the black poison into the cup. The vial was almost empty now. She placed the tray by the bed. Luna, your dinner. Ella sat by the window, her hands wrapped tightly around her arms. Her voice was faint. Thank you, Mira. Guilt twisted in the maid's gut, but the image of her brother, beaten or killed in the Gamma's household, kept her silent. Day 2. Ella could barely stand. She collapsed twice, once in the hallway, once in the training yard. Her vision swam with shadows, her hands trembled too much to hold a spoon, and the whispers, they never stopped. He left you because he's tired of you. Your strength was an illusion. You are not a Luna, you are a curse. Ella screamed at the empty air, only to be found moments later, curled on the floor, breathing hard, her wolf silent and unreachable. Mira helped her into bed with shaking hands. Day 3. The final drop of poison was added to Ella's tea. That night, she didn't eat much. Her skin burned with fever. Her veins felt like fire beneath her flesh. Her head pounded with pressure. When she tried to walk, her legs gave out. She collapsed beside her bed, her body convulsing slightly as her eyes rolled back. Mira screamed, dropping the tray, the dishes shattering across the floor. Mira sat on the cold stone floor outside Ella's chamber, her hands clutched in her lap, stained with the Luna's fevered sweat. Her eyes were wide, her body trembling. Ella hadn't moved since she collapsed, her breathing shallow, her skin pale as snow. The guilt was a gnawing thing inside her chest, clawing and howling louder than any wolf. She couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep. She could barely breathe without feeling like a monster. I poisoned her. I did this. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She couldn't live like this anymore. The desperate visit. That night, Mira sneaked through the pack house like a shadow. Cloaked in a dark shawl, she crept past guards and ducked into quiet halls until she reached the Gamma's wing. The guard on duty knew her and nodded her in. She found Cece in the candle-lit sitting room, lounging across a couch like royalty, sipping from a silver cup. Cece looked up, mildly surprised, then smiled coldly. Well, if it isn't the trembling little maid. Mira's voice was raw. She's dying, Cece. Cece didn't blink. And? You promised she'd only get sick, just weak enough to be removed. Not this. Not like this. Cece sighed and set her cup down with an icy clink. Promises are for fools. Besides, she's still breathing, isn't she? Mira stepped forward, her eyes wet with desperation. Please, give me the antidote. I won't say anything to anyone. Just let me save her. Cece's expression twisted into a smirk, her voice honeyed with venom. And risk my life? Do you think I'm stupid? I'll do anything, Mira whispered. Anything. Cece stood slowly, stepping close, her voice suddenly low and dangerous. If you even think about opening your mouth, your brother will be sent back to you in pieces. Mira flinched as if slapped. You're a servant. Act like one. You obey, or your little brother bleeds. She leaned in close, her voice now a hiss. And if you come here again, I'll make sure you drink the rest of the poison. Then she turned away, dismissing her like dirt. Mira stumbled out of the Gamma's wing, heart racing, sobs stuck in her throat. She had no one, no cure, no way out, and Ella was dying. The silence that greeted him. Damien stepped down from his black stallion, boots crunching over gravel as he approached the pack house. The sun was setting, but something felt off. The usual lively buzz of warriors training, pups playing, and Omegas preparing supper was absent. Too quiet. His wolf stirred uneasily in his chest. He hadn't even crossed the threshold when Beta Leo met him at the door, face pale, eyes heavy. Damien stiffened. Where's Ella? Leo hesitated. She collapsed 2 days ago. The healers can't figure out what's wrong. She hasn't woken up. The world tilted. Damien's heart slammed against his ribs. Why wasn't I told sooner? You were in hostile territory. We didn't want to risk. He didn't hear the rest. He shoved past Leo and stormed inside. The sight that shattered him. He burst into their room. There she was. His Luna, his mate, his heart. Pale and motionless beneath a tangle of white sheets, her silver hair damp with sweat, her breathing ragged, her glowing strength, the vibrant fire she always carried, was gone. She looked like a ghost of herself. Damien dropped to his knees beside the bed, hands trembling as he reached out and cupped her cheek. Ella. No response. He pressed his forehead to hers. Her skin was burning. Who did this? His voice cracked with fury and fear. What the hell happened while I was gone? He turned sharply as the healer entered quietly, a wrinkled older woman with kind but grave eyes. She's been poisoned, Alpha, she said gently. A dark spell, one I haven't seen in years. I had to dig deep into old scrolls and forbidden knowledge to find it. Damien's jaw clenched. Tell me everything. The healer hesitated. The spell is slow, cruel. It feeds on love, on the soul. It's why she kept smiling, why she hid it. She didn't want to worry you. Who made this spell? Damien asked, voice like thunder. The healer's gaze darkened. The aura, it matches that of someone called Lila. Damien's blood ran cold. Of course it was her. Ella whimpered faintly in her sleep. Damien turned back to her, brushing sweat from her brow, swallowing the lump in his throat. She'll fight through this, he whispered, more to himself than anyone. I won't let her go. His eyes blazed gold with fury. And I'll burn down the world to find the ones who did this. Damien stood over Ella's unconscious form, his fists clenched tightly at his sides. Her breathing was shallow, skin slick with sweat. Every second she spent trapped in the grips of the poison felt like a knife twisting in his chest. Lucian stepped into the room quietly, his sharp eyes scanning Ella, his jaw tight with concern. Tell me what to do, Lucian said, without hesitation. Damien didn't look at him. His voice came out low, dark, edged with fury. Someone did this, someone in our pack. He finally turned, his golden eyes glowing with deadly intent. And I want them found. Lucian nodded. Where do we start? Damien crossed to his desk, retrieving the small, tainted vial the healer had found beneath Ella's pillow. He held it up to the light, the thick, almost oily red liquid still clinging to the glass like venom. This was buried in our home, under her pillow. His voice grew colder. This wasn't an accident. Someone got close enough to touch her bed. Lucian's expression darkened. I want every patrol log reviewed, every kitchen worker questioned, every room maid rotated this week, investigated. Quietly, Damien ordered. No one knows we're onto them. Not yet. Lucian nodded grimly. What about Cece? Damien's jaw tightened. Why her? Lucian hesitated. Because when Zara was banished, she never stopped talking to her. She's been sneaking off during border shifts. I never caught her, but I've suspected things. Damien's expression turned lethal. Then start with her. Lucian bowed his head slightly. And if I find the traitor? Damien looked back at Ella, who twitched in her fevered sleep, a soft sound escaping her lips that shattered him from the inside. His voice was ice. Bring them to me alive. I want to know exactly what they did, and who else helped them. Lucian gave a single nod. It's done. He turned and vanished down the hallway, already pulling strings in his mind. The hunt had begun, and the traitor was running out of time. Lucian moved like a shadow through the pack house, silent and sharp-eyed. Every word he heard, every flicker of unease in the eyes of the servants, fed into the picture he was building in his mind. He had already questioned the cooks, the servers, and the guards stationed near Ella's quarters. All of them claimed nothing strange had happened, no visitors, no odd deliveries. But Lucian had been a beta for too long to believe in coincidences. Someone was lying, and it was time to find out who. He walked into the kitchen again, scanning the staff working their shifts. Then his gaze landed on Mira, Ella's personal maid. She was paler than usual, her hands trembling slightly as she stirred a pot of stew. Lucian narrowed his eyes. "Mira," he said calmly. She jumped, her hand knocking over a bowl. "Yes, Beta? I'd like a word. Now." He led her out behind the kitchen, where no one else could hear. Mira wrung her hands, eyes darting like a cornered rabbit. Lucian folded his arms, voice calm but cold. "Ella's sick, poisoned. Someone put something under her pillow, and someone's been adding it to her food." He stepped closer. "You're her personal maid. That makes you the last person to handle her meals. Do you want to explain that?" Mira's breath hitched. No, I would never hurt the Luna. I swear it, Beta." Lucian watched her, silent. Mira's hands were shaking now, and tears welled up in her eyes. "They forced me. I didn't know what it would do, I swear. She said she'd kill my brother. He's just a servant. She said she'd make it look like an accident." Lucian's voice dropped. "Who?" Mira's lips trembled. She looked around, terrified. Lucian stepped even closer, voice like thunder. "Tell me now, Mira. If you want to protect your brother, I need a name." Mira broke. "Cece. It was Cece. She gave me the vial, said it was just something to make the Luna sleep deeper. I didn't know it was poison. Please, Beta, I didn't want to do it." Lucian's jaw locked. He had suspected Cece, but this confirmed it. "You did the right thing by talking," he said, "but you should have come sooner." "I'm so sorry," Mira whispered, collapsing to her knees. "Please don't tell the Alpha. I'm begging you." Lucian looked down at her, then turned away. "Go to the healer. Stay with Ella. Don't leave her side. I'll handle the rest." And with that, he vanished into the shadows. His next stop was the Gamma's estate. And Cece, her time was up. Lucian stormed through the Gamma estate, fury pulsing beneath his skin. He was tired of whispers, of shadows lurking behind friendly smiles. This was treason. Poisoning the Luna was not just betrayal. It was war. Cece was waiting in the sitting room when he arrived, her golden brown curls falling delicately over her shoulder, her expression composed, too composed. Her mother and father, the Gamma and his mate, sat beside her, stiff with concern. "Beta Lucian," the Gamma greeted, rising. "To what do we owe this surprise?" Lucian didn't waste time. He fixed his eyes on Cece. "I know what you did. You gave Mira the vial. You threatened her brother to force her into poisoning the Luna." Gasps filled the room. Cece's lips trembled, and suddenly she burst into tears. "What? No, I would never do such a thing. I love our Luna. She's been nothing but kind to me." She clutched her chest, sobbing harder. "Why would I ever want to harm her?" Lucian didn't flinch. "Don't play games, Cece." Mira confessed everything. Cece shook her head violently, tears streaming down her face. "She's lying. She must be trying to cover for someone else. You know she's just a maid. She probably messed up something and is blaming me to save herself." Her mother wrapped an arm around her, glaring at Lucian. "Beta, with all due respect, our daughter is no criminal. She's always been loyal to this pack." Lucian glanced at the Gamma, but the man looked torn, uncertain. He could see doubt in his eyes, but no conviction to challenge his daughter. Lucian's voice darkened. "Whether you believe me or not, Mira's brother no longer belongs to this household. He's under my protection now. If anything happens to him or to Mira, your entire family will be held accountable." The Gamma looked stricken, but Cece's eyes blazed beneath her tears. Lucian turned without another word, his steps echoing like thunder as he left the estate with the boy in tow. Later that night, Cece paced her bedroom, her fury boiling beneath her skin. The softness in her eyes was gone. The tears had dried. She was no longer the Gamma's sweet daughter. "Mira," she hissed. That little rat had ruined everything. Now Lucian was sniffing around, and she had lost access to Zara's spies. She clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. "She thinks confessing will save her?" she spat. "No one betrays me and walks away. Her eyes narrowed with murderous intent. I'll handle her quietly. No more threats, no more warnings. Mira won't live long enough to regret crossing me. She reached into a locked drawer, pulling out a small vial of her own, clear, odorless, deadly. Then she smiled. Let's see how brave you really are, little maid. Lucian stood before Damien in the war room, his expression grim. She denied it. Cried in front of her parents like she was the victim, he said, but I could see it in her eyes. She's guilty. Damien's jaw tightened, the veins in his neck pulsing. She threatened Mira. For what? To poison my mate? His aura flared, raw power rippling through the room like a brewing storm. She didn't break, Lucian continued, and her parents, especially the Gamma, stood by her. Damien's eyes darkened. Then I'll break her myself. Later that day, Gamma household. The ground trembled beneath heavy footsteps as Damien stormed into the Gamma estate. His presence was like a thunderclap, and fear spread through the servants like wildfire. The Gamma hurried from his office, his face pale. Alpha, he bowed deeply. Is something wrong? Bring me your daughter, Damien growled, his voice like a whip crack. Now. The Gamma swallowed and sent a servant running. Moments later, Cece stepped into the room, her long skirt swishing around her ankles, her face a perfect mask of innocence. She blinked, her eyes already glistening with tears. Alpha Damien, why are you angry with me? You tell me, Damien hissed, stepping forward. Why did you threaten Mira and give her poison to put under Ella's bed? I don't know what you're talking about, Cece gasped, her tears spilling freely now. I swear on the moon goddess, I would never hurt Luna Ella. She's my role model. Liar! The force of Damien's voice made the walls tremble. In a flash, he was in front of her, his hand closing around her throat like a steel trap. He lifted her off her feet, slamming her against the wall. Confess, he roared, his eyes glowing gold with fury. Tell me the truth before I end you right here. Cece gasped, clawing at his hand, eyes wide with fear. Her legs kicked uselessly in the air. Alpha, please, the Gamma cried, falling to his knees. She's still a child. She's my only daughter. Please have mercy. Do you think mercy will bring my mate back from that bed? From death's door? Damien bellowed. I should kill her now and spare this pack the snake you raised. Tears streamed down the Gamma's face. I beg you, please. If she's guilty, we'll deal with her. But please don't kill her, not without proof. Damien's eyes narrowed, the darkness in his aura thick and choking. For a moment, the only sound was Cece's gasping breath and the crackle of energy between them. Then, slowly, Damien released her. Cece collapsed to the floor, coughing and sobbing. He turned to the Gamma, his voice low and lethal. If I find out you knew and protected her, I'll bury you both. He turned his back on them, pausing at the door. I don't care if she's your daughter or the goddess herself. If I find proof she hurt my mate, I will kill her myself. Then he vanished, leaving silence and terror behind. Damien's return to Ella. The heavy doors to the healing chamber creaked open as Damien stepped inside, his expression dark and weary. The scent of herbs clung to the air, unable to mask the faint trace of sickness that clung to the room. Ella lay motionless on the bed, her once vibrant silver hair now dull, her skin pale and clammy. Her chest rose in slow, shallow breaths. Damien knelt beside her, brushing damp strands from her forehead. Ella, he whispered, his voice cracking. Stay with me. She didn't respond. Only a faint twitch of her fingers gave him hope. Please, he murmured, pressing his forehead to her hand. Fight, just a little longer. I'm going to fix this. I swear. Meanwhile, inside the Gamma household, the door to Cece's private room slammed shut with force. Her father stood tall, his face unreadable. Her mother, on the other hand, was already weeping, though whether it was from shame or belief in her daughter, no one could tell. Cece, her father said coldly, this is your last chance. Did you give that vial to Mira? Cece's eyes widened, her voice trembling with carefully crafted innocence. I've told you already. I didn't do anything. I don't even know what this is about. Why does everyone keep blaming me? Her mother rushed to her side, wrapping her in a hug. I believe you, sweetheart. You would never do something so evil. But her father wasn't swayed. That you've always been too good at pretending. I can't afford to believe you just because I'm your father. Cece stepped back, eyes shimmering with false hurt. So now even you don't believe me? I believe someone is lying, and Mira's story is too detailed to ignore, he snapped. And your friendship with Zara after her banishment? You never once told us you stayed in touch. That alone is suspicious. Cece's lips curled slightly, then smoothed back into her usual sweetness. I'm being framed. You're just like everyone else. You want someone to blame, and I'm an easy target. Her mother flared. That's enough. Our daughter is being hunted, and you, her own father, doubt her. He turned away, fists clenched. If I find out you're lying, Cece, not even your mother will be able to protect you. Cece lowered her head, her tears falling silently, though not one of them was real. Cece's plot. The night air was thick and silent as Cece sat by her bedroom window, staring out into the moonlit woods. Her thoughts were not on the stars or the peaceful forest, but on Mira. She had made her decision. Mira had become a problem, a dangerous one. And problems like that had to be erased. Her fingers drummed against the windowsill, her lips tight with suppressed rage. She talks, she dies, Cece whispered to herself. But as her mind drifted, a wave of memories came rushing back. Flashback before Ella came. The pack had once been full of laughter, training drills, and gossip about the Alpha's potential mate. And Zara had been at the heart of it all. She was strong, charming, and ambitious. Everyone admired her, including Cece. While others saw Zara as Luna-to-be, Cece saw a future, her future. Zara had promised her, when I become Luna, you'll lead the female warrior division. No one else. I trust you. It was the moment Cece had felt seen. She was always in the shadows, but besides Zara, she had power, a name, a path forward. So when Ella showed up, a quiet rogue no one knew, Cece watched in disbelief as things began to shift. Damien began spending more time with her. The pack began whispering about the bond, and then the day came, the day the moon goddess chose her, not Zara. And just like that, everything Cece had built in her dreams began to crumble. Zara's fury had been volcanic, and Cece had been the one who fanned the flames. She's nothing, Cece had whispered back then. Break her spirit before she takes everything, before it's too late. But the plan failed. Zara was banished, and Ella became Luna. The bitterness never left. Zara should have ruled. I should have risen, but because of her, I'm nothing. Back to the present. Cece's eyes narrowed as she pulled out a folded note, Zara's latest instructions. Her hands trembled slightly, but not from fear, from anger. I won't let you ruin everything again, Ella, she hissed. This time, I won't fail. She walked across the room and picked up her dagger, its hilt engraved with her family's crest. But her loyalty no longer belonged to her bloodline. It belonged to the woman she believed was the rightful queen. And tonight, she would make sure no one stood in her way, not even a trembling maid with guilt in her eyes. Mira sat silently in the Alpha's private chamber, her eyes downcast, fingers clenched tightly in her lap. The air was tense, thick with the weight of what was coming. Damien stood across from her, his jaw clenched, golden eyes burning with barely restrained fury. Lucien remained by the door, arms folded, watching Mira with calm intensity. No one spoke. Not yet. Finally, Damien broke the silence, his voice low but seething. I know you have told Lucien the truth already. I need to hear it from you, Mira. No more fear. No more silence. Who gave you that vial? How did you become Ella's maid? What's your connection to Cece? Mira's throat tightened. Her lips trembled, but then she remembered the look on her little brother's face, safe, freed from Cece's claws because of Beta Lucien's mercy. She lifted her gaze. I'll tell you everything, Alpha. Damien's expression darkened, but he nodded. Speak. Mira took a shaky breath. I never meant to hurt anyone. I swear, I was just a regular kitchen maid until Cece came to me. She threatened to have my brother killed if I didn't follow her orders. My brother worked in the Gamma's household, and I knew she could do it. Tears slipped down Mira's cheeks, but she kept talking. She gave me the vial, said it was a special herb to help the Luna sleep better, told me to put it under her pillow and mix small drops into her food. Lucien's fists clenched at his sides. Mira looked pleadingly at Damien. I didn't want to, but every time I hesitated, Cece reminded me of my brother. I couldn't lose him. I was so scared. Damien's voice was like thunder. And your position as Ella's personal maid? Mira flinched. Cece arranged it. She convinced the head maid to reassign me. She said it would make things easier, less noticeable. Damien stepped back, his hands curling into fists. Rage rolled off him in waves. Wild and feral. So she embedded you beside my mate, he growled. Used my people, poisoned my queen. He turned to Lucian, his voice cold and sharp as steel. "If Cece is not caught red-handed, I will make sure she bleeds for every drop of poison that touched Ella." Lucian nodded. "We'll get proof. We're close." Damien's golden eyes blazed. "Good, because next time, no one stops me." He stormed out, the door slamming shut behind him. Mira collapsed into her chair, sobbing softly, not out of guilt now, but relief. The truth was out, and justice was coming. The plan unfolds. Nightfall wrapped the pack house in a blanket of quiet. But beneath the calm, deadly intentions stirred. Cece stood behind a pillar in the hallway, her ears burning with fury. She had overheard her father speaking to her mother in low tones, promising to question Mira himself the next morning. He wanted to find the truth, even if it meant uncovering his daughter's lies. Her father, the mighty Gamma, was doubting her own blood. Her fists clenched, her nails bit into her palms. She couldn't let Mira speak again, not to her father, not to anyone. She'll ruin everything. Cece stormed back to her chambers, hatred boiling in her chest. She thought of Zara, banished, humiliated. She thought of Ella, lying in that bed, still breathing, still alive. And Mira, a mere servant girl, suddenly more trusted than her? No, she'd take matters into her own hands. The deception. Meanwhile, Mira was quietly folding Ella's nightgown when the headmaid appeared in the doorway, her expression stern. "Mira, a task for you." Mira blinked. "Yes, headmaid? You're to fetch Beta Lucian's dinner from the kitchen and deliver it to his chambers. His personal maid, Lina, has fallen ill." Mira frowned. "But the Beta has other maids. Why me?" The headmaid's eyes narrowed. "Do you question my orders, Mira? And no, but refuse me again, and you can consider your monthly pay cut in half." Mira's heart pounded. Something didn't feel right. The headmaid never assigned her to the Beta's duties. Not even once. But what choice did she have? "I'll go now," she whispered. The ambush. The hallway was quieter than usual. Not a soul stirred. Mira walked briskly, clutching the empty tray, eyes darting nervously from wall to wall. Her gut screamed that something was wrong. As she turned the corner near the back corridor leading to the kitchen, a shadow lunged out from the darkness. Mira barely had time to scream before a hand slammed over her mouth, dragging her into the alcove. "Cece!" Her eyes gleamed with madness in the moonlight, a wicked grin curling her lips. "Going somewhere, traitor?" Mira's eyes widened in terror. She struggled, but Cece was stronger, her grip powered by blind rage. "You should have stayed quiet," Cece hissed. "But no, you had to ruin everything." Mira whimpered, trying to speak, but Cece shoved her harder against the wall, reaching into her sleeve. A glint of steel. Mira's eyes widened in horror as Cece drew a gleaming dagger from her cloak, a blade etched with the Gamma crest, proof of her privilege and her treachery. "You should have kept your mouth shut," Cece hissed, her voice thick with hatred. "All you had to do was stay quiet and obedient. But no, you had to go and whimper to the Beta like some weak little rat." With trembling lips, Mira choked. "Please. Don't." Cece sneered. "You were nothing, just a maid. You think you matter to them? To him? To anyone? You're nothing but dirt under my shoe." As she raised the dagger, Mira acted on instinct. She lunged forward and sank her teeth into Cece's hand. Cece screamed in pain, but it only made her more vicious. With a furious growl, she shoved Mira against the stone wall, her strength laced with madness. "You want pain?" she spat, voice trembling with rage. "Then let me show you what pain feels like." The dagger plunged into Mira's side, just below her ribs on the left. A cry of agony burst from Mira's lips. Blood spilled, warm and thick, staining her dress and the stone floor. She gasped, struggling to breathe, her legs buckling beneath her. Cece leaned in close, breathing heavily, eyes wild. "That's for betraying me. And this," she raised the dagger again, aiming for Mira's neck, "is to make sure you never speak again." The rescue. "Step away from her." The voice cut through the night like thunder. In a blur of motion, Beta Lucian lunged forward, his dagger flashing with deadly precision. Cece turned too late. Lucian's blade sliced across her left shoulder, drawing a cry from her as she staggered back, blood pouring from the wound. Her mask slipped slightly, revealing her identity. Gasps broke out among the female warriors behind Lucian. "You Cece?" One of them breathed, horrified. Disoriented and bleeding, Cece stumbled backward. Her eyes flicked from the Beta to Mira's blood-soaked form. She was exposed. She was outnumbered. With a snarl, she kicked Mira's unconscious body toward them, forcing Lucian to rush forward and catch her. In the same heartbeat, Cece reached into her cloak and hurled a cloud of shimmering gray powder into the air. The mist exploded around her in a flash of light. She vanished. But Lucian was ready. "After her!" he roared. 3 female warriors, swift, silent, and deadly, immediately cloaked themselves with the same powder and disappeared into the forest after her. Lucian knelt by Mira, blood soaking his hands as he pressed them against her wound. "Stay with me, Mira," he whispered, his voice shaking. "Help is coming. You're safe now, I promise." The healer's house. The room was tense and thick with the scent of blood and burning herbs. Mira lay pale and still on the cot, her dress soaked in crimson. Lucian knelt by her side, one hand tightly clutching hers, the other clenched into a fist, knuckles white. Moments later, the door slammed open. 3 female warriors entered, their faces pale, their breathing heavy. "We lost her," one of them reported, her voice shaking. "Cece, she's fast, strong. We couldn't catch her." Lucian's head snapped up, his eyes burned with fury. He stood in a flash, towering over them. "You had one job," he snarled. "One job, to bring her in." The warriors flinched but stood tall. "We're sorry, Beta." She vanished near the eastern ridge. The shadows swallowed her. Lucian swore under his breath, pacing. "Get the Alpha. Now," he growled. Moments later, the air shifted violently as Alpha Damien stormed into the healer's house, his aura suffocating, his fury a palpable force. His eyes locked onto Mira's limp form, and his expression twisted into a dangerous snarl. "What happened to her?" he demanded. Lucian's jaw was clenched. Cece stabbed her. She tried to kill her. Damien's fists clenched at his sides. "Where is she now?" "She escaped," one of the warriors said bitterly. "We tried. She slipped through." Damien's chest heaved with rage. "She will not get far." He turned to 2 of the warriors. "You go now. Inform the patrol captains. No one gets in or out of this pack without being checked. I want eyes on every shadow." The warriors bowed and rushed out. He turned to 3 more. "You, secure the Gamma's estate. No one leaves until I say so, not even the Gamma himself." The final words. A weak gasp from the cot snapped Damien's attention back. Mira's eyes fluttered open, barely. Her lips trembled. "Alpha?" she whispered. "My brother." Damien moved to her side instantly, kneeling. "I'll protect him. I swear it, Mira. No one will harm him." A soft smile ghosted her lips before her body stilled. The room fell silent. "No, no." Lucian's voice cracked as he shook her gently, but it was too late. She was gone. Damien stood slowly, rage rolling off him like a tidal wave. His silver eyes gleamed, deadly and cold. "She killed her," he said quietly. "That girl was under our protection, and she killed her." He looked at Lucian. "Gather your weapons. We move now." Lucian nodded grimly, eyes hard. Together with the remaining female warriors, they left the healer's house, bound for the Gamma estate. Their footsteps were thunder, their fury righteous and unrelenting. There would be no more mercy. Cece's room, Gamma's estate. Pain radiated through Cece's shoulder where Lucian's dagger had slashed her. Her breathing was shallow, her movements frantic as she stumbled through her bedroom window, clutching the bleeding wound. Moonlight poured in through the window, casting her disheveled figure in a pale glow. She winced, teeth gritted as she yanked open her wardrobe, grabbing a leather satchel. "Think, Cece, think," she muttered, tossing in bandages, a healing salve, and a small pouch of gold coins hidden in her drawer. Her heart pounded in her ears. They know it was me." Cece gritted her teeth as she wrapped a strip of cloth around her bleeding shoulder. Every movement sent waves of pain through her arm, but she couldn't stop now. Her satchel was nearly full. Money, clothes, healing salves, and a forged identity token stolen from the Gamma records. She had no idea that the estate was no longer safe. Outside, the estate had already been surrounded. Female warriors, sharp-eyed and battle-ready, moved silently through the perimeter, sealing every possible escape route. Main entrance, moments later. The thick doors of the estate slammed open with a force that shook the walls. Alpha Damien, clad in black, aura raging with fury, strode in like a storm. Behind him were Beta Lucian and a battalion of fierce female warriors, eyes burning with purpose. Startled, the Gamma and his wife rushed out from the sitting room, confusion etched on their faces. "What's going on?" the Gamma asked, brows furrowing. "Alpha Damien, why are you—" But Damien didn't speak, his fists clenched, and his silver eyes blazed with such fury that even the Gamma stepped back in caution. Lucian stepped forward instead, voice as sharp as a blade. "Where is your daughter?" he growled. "Bring out the criminal, now." The Gamma flinched, but before he could respond, his wife gasped, her expression twisting with offense. "How dare you speak that way about my daughter?" she snapped at Lucian. "She is not a criminal. She didn't finish her sentence. Damien moved. Like a flash of lightning, the enraged Alpha was in front of her. Without a word, his hand shot out and grabbed her by the throat, lifting her off her feet effortlessly. "Your daughter murdered an innocent girl," Damien snarled, his voice low and venomous. "She tried to assassinate my mate. She betrayed this pack and made a deal with Zara." The Gamma's eyes widened. What are you saying?" The Luna choked in Damien's grasp, clawing at his arm as her feet dangled inches from the floor. The sheer force of his power rolled through the room like a storm. "Damien," Lucian called, trying to pull him back from the edge. "We need answers, not more death." For a second, it looked like Damien wouldn't stop. But then, with a disgusted snarl, he released her. She collapsed to the floor, coughing violently, holding her neck. The Gamma dropped to his knees beside his wife, glaring up at the Alpha in horror. Damien turned to the warriors. "Search every room. Tear this place apart if you have to. I want Cece alive, but barely." The warriors obeyed instantly, spreading through the house like fire. Lucian grabbed the Gamma by the collar, yanking him up. "Pray she's still here, because if she's gone, you both will answer to the pack." Meanwhile, upstairs, Cece's room. Cece stuffed the last vial into her satchel, her heart hammering wildly. Then she heard it. Boots, voices, dozens of them, coming closer. Panic ripped through her. "They're here," she breathed, eyes wide. No. She snatched up her bag and darted to the window again, but outside she saw them. Warriors, archers, guards, all waiting. She was trapped. Blood still dripped from her shoulder, but she bit through the pain. "I need to move, now." She paused, casting a quick glance around the room that had once been her sanctuary. Everything looked smaller, dimmer. Rage flickered in her eyes. All because of that weakling, Mira. Her voice cracked with fury and fear. All because of her. She stumbled toward the door, but froze. Boots, several. Fast, heavy. They were coming. Cece's hands trembled as she yanked open the floorboards under her dresser, revealing a narrow crawl space, her father's old emergency escape tunnel, built during the Rogue Wars. Only a few in the household even knew it existed. Heart-pounding, she dropped her satchel inside and slid in after it, wincing as her injured shoulder scraped against the cold wooden walls. She bit her lip to keep from crying out. Below, the thunder of boots grew louder. Shouts, doors slamming open, furniture toppling over as the pack warriors stormed the estate with ruthless precision. "They're getting closer," she hissed to herself, crawling as fast as her battered body would allow. Main hall. Downstairs. Damien stood like a predator at the base of the stairs, his rage barely restrained. "They found the girl's blood trail upstairs," a warrior reported to Lucian. "There's an open window in the hall, but no signs of her outside. She's still inside this house." "Then she's hiding like the coward she is," Damien growled. "Fan out. Check the walls, the floors, anywhere she could crawl through. I want her dragged out by her hair." The Gamma was pale, his hands shaking as he watched his estate turn into a war zone. His wife sat on the couch, dazed, still coughing from Damien's earlier grip. Secret tunnel, below the estate. Cece finally reached the end of the tunnel, a hatch hidden beneath the old horse stables. She pushed against it, expecting freedom. It didn't budge. Heavy boots thudded above her. Voices. No. Her whisper cracked with fear. She slammed her hand against the hatch again, this time realizing what had happened. The patrol team had already blocked the exits. She was trapped. Before she could react, the hatch was thrown open from above, blinding light spilling into the cramped tunnel. Lucian's furious eyes stared down at her. "Cece," he said, his voice like steel, "you've run far enough." Two of the female warriors leapt down into the tunnel and grabbed her as she screamed and thrashed, trying to reach for the dagger in her boot, but one of them struck her across the face with a gauntleted fist. Blood splattered the tunnel wall as she slumped, dazed. They hauled her up like a sack of grain and dragged her out into the open. Outside the estate, Damien stood, arms crossed, his expression carved from stone. The moment he saw Cece, bloodied, struggling, her eyes wild, he stepped forward. His presence dropped like a hammer. "Alpha," she croaked. He slapped her across the face, hard. Her head snapped to the side. She would have collapsed if the warriors hadn't held her up. "You murdered Mira," Damien snarled, voice shaking with fury. "You betrayed your pack. You aligned yourself with Zara. You dared to poison my mate." Tears welled in her eyes, but they weren't of remorse. They were the tears of a coward who'd been caught. Lucian approached and looked her dead in the eye. "For Mira, you'll suffer." Damien turned to the Gamma, whose face had drained of all color. "You sheltered a traitor," the Alpha said coldly. "But tonight, justice will be served." Cece trembled as the warriors dragged her toward the center of the estate. "Take her to the dungeons," Damien ordered. "We'll hold the public trial by dawn." Cece sat chained to the cold, blood-stained chair in the center of the interrogation room, her face pale, her body battered. Her once proud eyes were sunken, shadowed by fear and exhaustion. Across from her stood Damien, Lucian, and 3 high-ranking elders of the pack. Lucian paced slowly behind her, the sound of his boots echoing like a countdown. "You poisoned the Luna," one of the elders said coldly. "You aided Zara, a known traitor. You attempted to murder a servant of this pack. Do you deny any of this still?" Cece said nothing. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. Damien's voice was low, dangerous. "You were given a chance to confess, to speak. Now the truth will be carved out of your silence." Lucian moved closer and placed the blood-stained dagger they recovered near Mira's body on the table. "We have evidence, witnesses, a corpse." "Please," she finally whispered, broken. "It wasn't supposed to go that far." "Mira is dead," Damien bellowed, slamming his fist into the table, cracking the wood. "She died protecting her brother, protecting you when you blackmailed her." The room went silent. Cece flinched, the last of her composure unraveling. Zara said she'd fix everything. She promised." Cece's voice cracked, but it was too late. Nothing she could say would redeem her now. "Drag her back to the dungeon and deal with her until she is ready to speak," Damien said before walking out in anger. An hour later, inside the pack's dungeon, midnight. The dungeon was dark, lit only by flickering torches that cast twisted shadows on the stone walls. Screams echoed faintly through the corridors, the sounds of agony and truth being torn from flesh and bone. Cece was strapped upright to a post, her arms chained above her head. Her once fair skin was now littered with bruises and welts from the silver-laced iron chains that had whipped her back and sides throughout the long, agonizing night. Her mouth was bloodied from biting down on her own lip to stop herself from screaming, but the pain eventually won. Lucian stood before her, his face grim, his shirt soaked in sweat and blood. 2 of the female warriors flanked him, silent and merciless. "You will tell us everything now," Lucian growled. "Or we'll continue until your lungs give out." Cece trembled violently. "Please, no more." Lucian stepped forward. "Who helped you? Who else in this pack is involved?" There was a pause, a long, breathless hesitation. Then, "The head maid, Julianne," she choked. "She knew. She helped set the trap for Mira. She was the one who gave the orders to send her out alone." Lucian's face darkened. With a wave of his hand, one of the warriors stepped out of the room to deliver the order. Cece collapsed forward, still chained, her shoulders shaking. "I only wanted to be someone important. I only wanted her gone." Moments later, opposite cell. Julianne, Ella's once trusted head maid, was dragged into the dungeon, kicking and screaming. Her shrieks echoed violently off the walls as the guards threw her into the adjacent iron-barred cage. "You fools! I did nothing!" she shouted. "This is a mistake." Lucian didn't even look at her. "Strip her of rank. Chain her down." The guards obeyed swiftly. Julianne was shackled to the back wall, and then the same silver-lined chains that had been used on Cece were raised. "Wait, please." But it was too late. The first strike landed across her back. She screamed. Another, then another, painful, precise, and unrelenting. Lucian's voice cut through the violence. "For betraying the Luna, for aiding a murderer, you will answer for every drop of Mira's blood." As Julianne wailed in agony, Cece wept silently from across the cell, her body slumped forward, broken. Her betrayal was complete, and the consequences were only beginning. Still at midnight, the holding cages beneath the pack courtyard. The stone walls dripped with moisture, the scent of blood and iron thick in the air. Shackled to the wall by her wrists, Julianne sat slumped against the cold floor, her face bruised, her body aching from the savage beatings. She knew she would die by dawn, but she didn't fear death. No, Julianne feared something far worse, failing her bloodline and failing Zara. The sound of footsteps echoed down the corridor, sharp and measured. A figure in a warrior's cloak stepped into view, face hidden beneath a hood, a torch in her hand. Julianne's eyes fluttered open. She recognized the scent instantly. Wolf, but not from this pack. "Are you one of hers?" Julianne rasped, her voice barely more than a whisper. The cloaked warrior knelt beside her, careful not to speak. Instead, she pulled out a folded strip of worn parchment. Julianne gave a weak chuckle, blood slipping down her lip. "Still loyal, after all this time?" The figure gave a slow nod. Julianne leaned forward, mustering the last strength in her battered body. Her voice was raspy but filled with urgency. "Tell Zara, the seed was planted, but the soil here is cursed," she whispered. "Ella is stronger than we expected, but not unbreakable." The cloaked woman blinked once. Julianne continued. "Tell her the white wolf bleeds." Then with trembling hands, Julianne reached into the torn lining of her bloody dress and pulled out a tiny rolled paper wrapped in wax thread. She pressed it into the warrior's hand. "No one must know I was her cousin," Julianne whispered. "Not even in death. Protect her name and tell her, vengeance runs in our veins." Footsteps echoed above, changing of the guard. The cloaked figure rose silently, tucked the message inside her belt, and vanished into the shadows just as the torchlight of two patrolling warriors spilled down the stairwell. Julianne slumped back against the wall, her breathing slowing. Soon they would come for her. But her message had already begun to move like smoke through the night. And somewhere, miles away, Zara would know.